Welcome to the Infinite Learner, Embracing Lifelong Education, an inspiring exploration of the endless journey of learning. This audiobook is brought to you by Mindful Literary, your trusted source for enriching your life with wisdom and knowledge. In a world where change is the only constant, the ability to learn and adapt is more crucial than ever. Whether you're a student, a professional, or someone simply passionate about personal growth, this audiobook will empower you to harness the power of lifelong learning. Throughout these chapters, we will delve into the mindset, strategies, and tools essential for becoming an infinite learner. We'll begin by cultivating a beginner's mind, exploring the importance of curiosity, and overcoming the fear of failure. From there, we'll navigate the realms of self-directed learning, critical thinking, and mastering various learning styles. You'll discover how to manage your time effectively, break through learning plateaus, and find joy in unconventional learning methods. We will also celebrate the success stories of lifelong learners, learn to embrace failure as an opportunity for growth, and understand the ethics of knowledge acquisition. Together, we will foster a learning-friendly environment, adapt to the future of education, and nurture a lifelong curiosity that drives innovation and personal fulfillment. By the end of this audiobook, you'll have the tools and inspiration to continue your learning journey with vigor and purpose. Let's embark on this exciting adventure together and unlock the infinite possibilities that lifelong learning offers. Chapter 1: The Beginner's Mind. Embracing a Growth Mindset. There was a time when I believed my abilities were set in stone. It wasn't a conversation I entertained often, but a silent conviction that defined my approach to challenges. I was either good at something, or I wasn't. The idea of becoming better seemed foreign and distant. It wasn't until a significant setback shook me that I realized the flaw in my thinking. This revelation hit me during a particularly grueling semester in college. I had always excelled in subjects that required logical reasoning, but faltered terribly in creative writing. Convinced that I lacked the talent for it, I avoided any course requiring flamboyant prose like the plague. But then, a mandatory literature course caught me in its web. With assignments piling up and my GPA on the line, I had no choice but to wrestle with words and metaphors I barely understood. My initial attempts were a disaster. Handing in my first paper felt like walking into a storm, knowing I'd come out drenched. When the professor returned it with more red ink than black, I crumpled inside. The harsh comments validated my belief that I was inherently bad at writing. In that moment, it was tempting to withdraw, to drop the course and retreat to the safety of my logical subjects. But a spark of resilience, perhaps stubbornness, nudged me to stay. I began looking into ways to improve, rather than accept defeat. A friend introduced me to Carol Dweck's concept of a growth mindset. The idea was simple yet groundbreaking. Abilities and intelligence could be developed through dedication and hard work. It directly challenged my long-held belief in fixed traits. Intrigued but skeptical, I started to explore how adopting this mindset might change my academic performance. The shift was not immediate, and it certainly wasn't easy. I attended extra writing workshops, sought feedback from peers, and invested a considerable amount of time in reading literary classics. The progress was slow but tangible. My second paper was met with fewer red scribbles and more constructive suggestions. My professor even commented that I'd shown significant improvement, a small but powerful acknowledgement. Embracing a growth mindset began to permeate other areas of my life. Challenges were no longer daunting, they were opportunities. Failure wasn't an endpoint, but a stepping stone. I started seeing potential for development in spaces where I once saw limitations. In subjects like mathematics and science, where I already excelled, the mindset pushed me to stretch further, to delve deeper into complexities I previously ignored. But the transformation wasn't solely academic. Interpersonal relationships, athletic pursuits, even hobbies flourished under this newfound perspective. I took up running, a sport I previously dismissed, thinking I wasn't built for it. Gradually but surely, I began clocking longer distances, beating personal records with each attempt. The same principles applied: consistent effort, learning from mistakes, and celebrating incremental progress. The most profound realization came when I started teaching. Encouraging students to adopt a growth mindset reshaped their approach to learning. They took on challenges with enthusiasm, striving not for perfection but for continuous improvement. Witnessing their growth validated my journey and reinforced the importance of this shift in mindset. As I reflect on this transformation, I recognize that the journey from a fixed to a growth mindset is ongoing. It's not about reaching a static state of growth, but embracing the endless potential for development. The more I learn, the more I realize there is to discover. Each setback is an invitation to grow, each accomplishment a brief respite before the next challenge. This perspective has not only enriched my academic and professional life, but has fundamentally altered how I view myself and my capabilities. As the chapters of my life continue to unfold, I carry with me the liberating belief that I am not confined by my current abilities. Growth is always within reach, and the journey ahead, however unpredictable, is brimming with infinite possibilities. Importance of curiosity. It wasn't a bolt of lightning or an earth-shattering revelation that rekindled my curiosity. Instead, it was a series of subtle nudges that guided me back to the flame of insatiable wonder I'd harbored as a child. Back then, the world was a playground of mysteries begging to be unraveled. Somewhere along the path to adulthood, that inquisitiveness had grown silent, overshadowed by routine and expectations. The moment of change arrived unexpectedly during a mundane afternoon. I was sifting through a dusty box of my childhood belongings when I stumbled upon an old notebook, filled with scribbles and sketches of my youthful fascinations. Dinosaurs, the solar system, sketches of imaginary inventions. Each page was a testament to the boundless curiosity that once fueled my every waking hour. A nostalgia-induced ache pulsed through me, awakening every dormant quest for knowledge. With the notebook precariously balanced in my hands, I felt an overwhelming urge to dive back into those unattended curiosities. How could I have let such vibrant inquiries fade into the background? What more could there be to learn and understand if I reignited that flame? The questions began snowballing, building a momentum I couldn't ignore. My heart raced with the thrill of potential discoveries lying just beyond my grasp. In the ensuing days, I began to intentionally seek out opportunities to learn, challenging myself to ask the whys and hows that I'd previously dismissed. Each exploration, whether as simple as understanding how a clock ticks or as complex as delving into the principles of quantum mechanics, was a step towards rediscovering the joy of learning. Curiosity, I found, was the key that unlocked the door to endless possibilities and transformed the mundane into the extraordinary. But there was more. Curiosity didn't just enhance my learning, it invigorated my entire being. Conversations became more engaging as I listened actively and asked deeper questions. My work took on new dimensions of creativity and depth. Even my relationships flourished as I grew more attentive and eager to explore the inner worlds of those around me. The ripple effects of curiosity were profound and far-reaching. As this journey of rekindled curiosity unfolded, I came to a poignant realization. Meaningful learning isn't confined to the walls of a classroom or the pages of a textbook. It lives in the fabric of our daily experiences, in every question we dare to ask and every mystery we set out to explore. Curiosity is the compass that guides us through the vast landscape of knowledge and understanding, propelling us towards growth and enlightenment. Now, standing on the precipice of endless inquiry, I invite you to reignite your own curiosity. Let it guide you, challenge you, and transform you. Embrace the unknown with open arms, for it is in the realm of curiosity that all meaningful learning and, indeed, life itself, truly begins. Overcoming fear of failure. My heart pounded as I stood before the classroom, a cloud of anxiety swirling over me like a tempest. The fear of failure had always been my most relentless adversary. Every time I felt its icy grip, it whispered insidious suggestions. You're not good enough. What if you make a mistake? This particular fear held a peculiar power over me, keeping my accomplishments in the shadows, never allowing my full potential to come into the light. But there came a day when I resolved to confront this fear head-on. My weapon? Embracing failure. I remember the first time the idea was proposed to me by a mentor. What if you saw failures as learning experiences instead of your downfall? It sounded simple, almost naive. Could reshaping my perception really dismantle years of ingrained fear? I decided to test this theory with a personal challenge. I enrolled in a public speaking course, the most direct confrontation to my fear I could imagine at the time. The course required me to deliver a speech in front of a live audience, and the thought of it sent shivers down my spine. But I was determined. I prepared meticulously, rehearsing my speech countless times, envisioning every possible scenario of failure, feeling each pang of anxiety. The day of the presentation arrived, and as I stood at the podium, my voice trembled, my palms sweated, and for a few agonizing seconds, I was convinced I would fail. And then, I did. I stumbled over words, forgot entire sentences, and felt the crushing weight of embarrassment. But a remarkable thing happened amidst the perceived disaster. I noticed the audience's eyes, not filled with judgment, but with empathy and encouragement. They were rooting for me. As I stepped down from the podium, a new sensation replaced my fear, a profound sense of liberation. I had faced failure, and I had survived. No, more than that, I had grown. Each mistake was a lesson, each stumble an opportunity to improve. This wasn't the end. It was a beginning. Through this raw encounter with failure, a powerful realization dawned. My worth wasn't bound by my successes or failures, but by my resilience and willingness to learn. From then on, I embraced failure as an integral part of my learning journey. I threw myself into new challenges, allowing mistakes to be my guide rather than my enemy. I took up painting, a hobby I'd once feared for its subjective nature and my lack of natural talent. Each brushstroke, each errant splash of color, taught me patience and creativity. I ventured into culinary experiments, where too much salt or burnt edges became lessons in balance and timing. I discovered that the fear of failure was a barrier to lifelong learning, an impedance to growth. By embracing it, I unlocked doors to worlds I never thought I could explore. This shift didn't come without setbacks. There were still moments of self-doubt and frustration. But they became less frequent, less paralyzing. I realized that true growth began at the edge of my comfort zone, where failure danced just at the periphery. The most profound lessons often come from the most unexpected places. Overcoming the fear of failure meant more than just achieving goals. It meant transforming my perspective, building resilience, and living with a newfound courage to explore without fear. As I continue to navigate this journey, I invite you to consider, what would you attempt if you knew you couldn't fail? And when you do fail, how might you turn that into your greatest triumph? Chapter 2. The power of self-directed learning. Developing learning goals. There's an art to setting learning goals, a delicate balance between ambition and realism. Over the years, I've honed this craft, learning to articulate what I want to achieve in ways that both challenge and motivate me. My journey with goal setting began in the most humble of places, a tattered notebook, pages filled with dreams, aspirations, and an insatiable curiosity. Those early scribbles were more than just wishes, they were a blueprint for a lifelong education. I remember vividly the first time I set a concrete learning objective. I was 12, curious about the mechanics of how birds fly. Rather than just idly wondering, I framed my curiosity into an actionable goal: understand the fundamentals of aviation physics within 3 months. I broke it down into smaller parts: research lift and drag this week, study wing shapes the next. Each mini-goal was a stepping stone that, collectively, built a pathway to a deeper understanding. With each small victory, I felt a surge of motivation, a desire to keep moving forward. Defining clear, achievable objectives became my guiding star. Whether I was learning a new language or diving into the depths of quantum mechanics, each goal was a beacon that lit the way. I began to appreciate the nuance of defining not just any goal, but the right goal. It needed to be specific enough to be tangible, yet flexible enough to allow for the natural ebb and flow of life. Master Spanish was too broad, nebulous. Converse fluently with a native speaker by the end of the semester was specific and, crucially, measurable. The process of setting these learning goals involved self-reflection and honesty. What did I truly want to achieve? Why was this goal important to me? What resources did I need? I found that writing down my answers anchored my objectives in the realm of the possible. It transformed them from abstract thoughts into concrete plans. For instance, during college, I wanted to write a research paper that would make a real impact. My goal evolved from write a great paper to conduct a comprehensive study on sustainable agriculture and publish findings in a reputable journal within 1 year. This nuanced shift provided clarity and a roadmap. However, not all journeys are smooth. There were times when I missed my targets, and initially, that felt like a failure. I learned that setbacks were not the end, but rather a recalibration point, an opportunity to reassess and adjust my goals. It's the process of striving, not just the achievement, that enriches your learning journey. The very act of pursuing a goal imbues your efforts with purpose. Perhaps the most vital aspect I discovered was the importance of aligning my goals with my intrinsic motivations. It's easy to follow trends, to chase after what seems popular or impressive. However, true motivation comes from within. When my learning goals resonated with my passions and aligned with my values, my dedication was unwavering. Each goal became a labor of love, a testament to my growth and aspirations. In the end, developing effective learning goals is more than a skill, it's a philosophy. It's about understanding yourself, embracing your passions, and setting a course that reflects both your highest aspirations and your immediate realities. It's a blend of dream and discipline, a dance between your present and your potential. As I continue to grow and evolve, my goals adapt with me. They remain my compass and my muse, perpetually guiding me toward new horizons, ensuring that my thirst for knowledge is never quenched, only deepened. In the endless ocean of learning, clearly defined objectives are the sails that carry me forward, always toward the next uncharted territory. Finding reliable resources. The Internet, an endless ocean of information, can be both a blessing and a curse. Navigating through it is like setting sail without a map. You're bound to get lost or end up on an island of misinformation. I remember when I first embarked on my learning journey, The excitement quickly turned into frustration as I struggled to find trustworthy resources. It was during a research project on climate change that I first encountered the sheer volume of conflicting information. Everywhere I turned, there were articles, blog posts, and scientific papers all claiming different things. I felt overwhelmed, but I realized the importance of finding reliable sources was crucial if I was to present a well-informed argument. One strategy that served me well was checking the author's credentials. Understanding who is behind the information can reveal a lot about the content's credibility. By cross-referencing the author's background, educational qualifications, and publication history, I could separate the charlatans from the experts. The relief I felt each time I identified a credible author was immeasurable, like finding a lighthouse in the storm. Another revelation came from scrutinizing the publishing platform. Peer-reviewed journals, respected news outlets, and educational institutions often serve as beacons of reliability. On the other hand, obscure websites with flashy advertisements were usually red flags. It became a rule of thumb: if a source looks sketchy, it probably is. This principle helped narrow down my list of go-to sources, making my research process more efficient. Of course, even the most credible sources can make mistakes. That's why cross-referencing multiple sources became my golden rule. If different trusted platforms reported the same information, I felt more at ease with its accuracy. It reinforced the idea that truth is often corroborated by many, not just one. Then there was the matter of bias. No source is entirely free from it, myself included. I learned to read with a critical eye, constantly questioning the information's objectivity and considering potential biases in the author's perspective. Understanding the slant of a source didn't discredit it entirely, but it did require me to dig deeper for a more balanced view. As my research skills improved, so did my confidence. I began to see the once daunting sea of information as a series of interconnected currents that could be navigated with the right tools. Every piece of reliable information I found became a stepping stone, propelling me further along my learning journey. Yet, the quest for reliable information is an ongoing battle. The digital landscape is ever-changing, filled with new challenges and barriers. There are moments I still feel like I'm treading water, unsure of where to go next. But each trial and triumph has equipped me with the skills to keep moving forward. So to anyone feeling overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of information out there, know this: the journey is worth the struggle. Finding reliable resources isn't just about gathering data. It's about honing your ability to discern truth in an age where it's often obscured. Trust your instincts, test your sources, and sail forward. The reliable resources you're looking for are out there, waiting to be found. Creating a study plan. It's a crisp autumn evening in my small, cozy apartment. The leaves outside my window are turning brilliant shades of red and gold, signaling a change in the seasons, and a perfect moment to embrace some change in my own life. Today, I'm crafting a study plan that truly aligns with my lifestyle and learning style. You see, for years, I've struggled with fitting study time into my chaotic schedule, often resulting in late-night cramming sessions that left me more exhausted than enlightened. But not anymore. This time, I'm forging a plan that works for me, and I believe it can work for you too. First things first, understanding my learning style. I've always been a visual learner, someone who thrives on diagrams, charts, and color-coded notes. Knowing this, I gathered my favorite tools. Highlighters, sticky notes, and a large whiteboard became staples of my studying arsenal. Getting to know how I absorb information most effectively allowed me to tailor my study sessions to involve activities that enhance retention, such as mind mapping and flashcard reviews. The next step was to find the right time. I realized that my brain is more alert in the mornings. So, I decided to carve out an hour each day before my daily routines kick in. Trust me, this wasn't easy. The allure of the snooze button is powerful, but I made a promise to myself. I placed my alarm across the room to force myself out of bed and into action. A hot cup of coffee and a brisk walk around my block later, I found myself more awake and ready to dive into my subjects with a fresh mind. Consistency was vital, and gradually, it became a cherished part of my daily routine. Then came the structure. Breaking down my overloaded syllabus into manageable chunks was the next big hurdle. I started by listing out all my subjects and the topics within each one. With this list, I prioritized based on upcoming tests and assignments. I allotted specific days for each subject, making sure to include short breaks to avoid burnout. Initially, it seemed like a rigid setup, but it offered me clarity and purpose every day. I even allowed for flexibility within the structure, like swapping topics if I felt more inclined towards one subject on a particular day. Of course, tracking progress is crucial. I set weekly goals and reflected at the end of each week to assess what worked and what didn't. Small rewards, like a favorite treat or an episode of a must-watch series, became powerful motivators. I also kept a journal where I noted my daily achievements and struggles, creating a conversation with myself about my learning journey. Crafting a study plan truly transformed my relationship with learning. It wasn't just about the mechanical act of studying, but about fostering a genuine connection with the material. As the initial weeks passed, I felt more in control, more focused, and more confident. What started as a daunting task became an empowering part of my life. It isn't a one-size-fits-all. It's a personalized strategy that evolves with you. And the beauty of it lies in its flexibility and responsiveness to your unique needs. Chapter 3: Learning Styles and Strategies. Understanding visual learners. Visual learning can truly be a game changer. In my years of experience, I've seen firsthand how a picture, a chart, or even a doodle can light up someone's understanding in ways words alone sometimes can't. I admit, I used to be skeptical. I believed learning was all about reading, listening, and remembering. But then, something happened that completely transformed my view on this. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was trying to help my friend's daughter, Lily, with her homework. Lily was struggling with history. Memorizing dates and events seemed almost impossible to her. I handed her the textbook, but I saw her eyes glaze over as she stared at the pages. That's when an idea struck me. I grabbed some colored markers and started drawing timelines on a large sheet of paper. For every significant event, I drew a small icon, a crown for the reigns of different kings and an olive branch for peace treaties. Her eyes widened with interest, and she began to ask questions, fascinated by the colors and shapes. It was as if a curtain had lifted. History was suddenly a vivid, engaging story of images for her. This experience was a revelation. I delved deeper into understanding what makes visual learning so powerful. I started incorporating visuals in my teachings and presentations. Diagrams, flowcharts, and even simple stick figure sketches. What I found was remarkable. Not only did my audience engage more, but they also remembered the content better. One of my students, who had always struggled with mathematical concepts, suddenly became enthusiastic about the subject when I used graphic representations to explain algebraic equations. Incorporating visual aids is not just for the sake of adding color or aesthetics, it's about enhancing comprehension. Let's look at some techniques that worked wonders for me. Mind mapping, for instance, is an excellent tool. Visual learners often benefit from seeing the connections between different pieces of information. Creating a mind map helps them organize their thoughts and see relationships at a glance. Another technique is the use of flashcards with images on one side and information on the other. This not only makes learning more interactive, but also taps into their ability to remember visual cues. I also found that visualization exercises can be highly effective. Asking learners to close their eyes and picture a scene or a concept makes the abstract tangible. When I taught a literature class, I encouraged my students to visualize the scenes described in the book. This not only made the text come alive, but also deepened their emotional connection to the material. On that note, I recall a time when one of my more challenging projects turned into a triumph thanks to these methods. I was tasked with training a team of engineers on a new, highly complex piece of software. Traditionally, a lecture might have sufficed, but I knew I had a mix of visual learners in the group. So, I designed a training program around detailed schematics and flow diagrams. The results were astounding. Not only did the team understand the software, but they also started suggesting optimizations based on their new understanding. This was visual learning in action, a real game changer. There lies a unique power in understanding and accommodating visual learners. Once you tap into this potential, you can open new pathways of knowledge and engagement, transforming the learning experience into something far more vivid and memorable. Yet, the journey doesn't end here. I've found that the most profound transformations begin with simple steps, taken with a willingness to see beyond traditional methods. What might you discover if you looked at learning through a different lens? Auditory learning techniques. As someone who has always leaned towards learning styles that engage my senses, auditory learning has proven to be remarkably effective for me. It wasn't until I stumbled upon podcasts and audiobooks, however, that my understanding of this technique truly deepened. Imagine absorbing new information while jogging through the park or cooking dinner. Believe it or not, the auditory medium has allowed me to transform such mundane moments into opportunities for growth and discovery. Podcasts, in particular, have been a game changer. There's an intimacy in listening to someone speak that neither books nor videos can quite offer. The human voice carries inflections, emotions, and nuances that written words sometimes fail to convey. While reading a complex subject, I've often found myself drifting, losing focus. But when I listen to someone explain those same concepts in a podcast, it's as if the barriers in my mind dissolve. The information flows naturally, like a captivating conversation rather than a lecture. Take, for example, the time when I delved into the world of quantum physics. Textbooks felt overwhelming. The terminology alone was enough to send my brain into a frenzy. It wasn't until I came across a podcast series that broke down these intricate topics into digestible audio bites. Each episode was a revelation, layering knowledge in such an engaging manner that I couldn't help but crave for more. The best part? I could listen during my morning commute, effectively turning my car into a classroom. Then there are audiobooks. Growing up, I was an avid reader but found myself with less time to dedicate to physical books as responsibilities mounted. Audiobooks resurrected my passion for literature, allowing me to read while doing other tasks. There's a unique joy in being narrated to, the characters coming to life through dramatized voices. It's as if each story becomes a theatrical performance playing out in my mind. Combining these auditory techniques has elevated my learning process. I now find myself exploring history, philosophy, science, and even fiction with an unprecedented enthusiasm. The rhythm of speech, the variation in tone and pace, all contribute to a dynamic learning experience that stays with me longer than silent reading ever could. Surprisingly, retaining and comprehending information has become less of a chore and more of an adventure. As I prepare to dive into the next podcast episode on my list, I can't help but feel a surge of anticipation. It's thrilling to think about the endless possibilities that auditory learning holds. The next question that looms over my mind: where will this auditory journey take me next? The answer is as uncertain as it is exciting, and each listen brings me closer to unraveling new curiosities. Tactile and kinesthetic learning. The texture of a cotton ball, the roughness of sandpaper, the cool smoothness of a metal doorknob. These are all sensations that carry weight in the realm of tactile learning. As a child, I vividly remember my classrooms being an eclectic mix of tools and gadgets designed to keep our hands busy while imprinting information onto our minds. For me, touch wasn't just a sense, it was a pathway to comprehension. The teachers understood that fitting a key into a lock could unlock a child's potential in understanding geometry, just as kneading clay could develop a tactile narrative that words alone never could. Imagine trying to grasp a scientific concept like magnetism. While reading about it in books felt like deciphering a foreign language, holding two magnets in my hands and feeling the invisible force either draw them together or repel them away brought the lesson to life. It was visceral, immediate, and undeniably effective. Suddenly, these abstract terms like attraction and repulsion had substance and weight, qualities my brain could tether to sensory experience, making the knowledge stick like Velcro to the fabric of my memory. Years later, I still employ tactile methods to grasp complicated ideas. When studying anatomy for a course, I used a model skeleton. Touching the grooves, feeling the joints move, it all made the array of bones and how they fit together far more tangible. As a tactile learner, the sensation of literally piecing things together brings an unparalleled clarity. The simple act of manipulating objects creates a sensory feedback loop that etches the information deep into my cognitive framework. While tactile learning involves a lot of handwork, kinesthetic learning takes the concept further by incorporating full body movement as a learning tool. Ever since elementary school gym class, it was apparent that moving helped me think. It was as if the gears in my brain were greased by the motion of my limbs. I learned to tie my shoes by watching and then mimicking the process, looping laces in motion and practice. That's the beauty of kinesthetic learning. It's not just about watching or listening, it's about doing. The action ingrains itself into your muscle memory, transforming ephemeral knowledge into lasting skill. One memorable moment of kinesthetic learning occurred during a high school physics class. The topic was projectile motion, a subject notoriously difficult to comprehend through textbooks alone. Our teacher, understanding the struggles we faced, devised an activity where we created miniature catapults to launch small objects. We charted their trajectories, measured distances, and adjusted variables. Each launch, adjustment, and recalculation was a dance of discovery, teaching us more than any static diagram ever could. In those moments of dynamic interaction, I didn't just learn about physics, I experienced it, embodied it. Given the kinesthetic approach's immediacy, it's no wonder that activities like role-playing and simulations are so effective. Take business training modules, for example. It's one thing to read about conflict resolution, but another to physically simulate it in a controlled environment. These rehearsals, filled with dynamic interactions, prepare you for real-world applications in a way that no written scenario can. It's about internalizing the ebb and flow of real human exchanges. And therein lies the remarkable synergy between tactile and kinesthetic learning. Both rely on physical interaction with our surroundings, but in distinct ways. One engages our fingers, the other involves our entire body, yet both enrich our cognitive and emotional landscapes beyond passive absorption. They invite us to touch, move, and ultimately, develop a deeply personal connection with the knowledge we seek. It becomes a part of us, lodged in the muscle fiber and sensory synapses, irrevocably altering our perspective and understanding. Combining these two strategies, my learning journey has always been an active expedition rather than a passive tour. I've come to appreciate that to truly know something, it often needs to be felt, handled, and lived through movement and touch. Each lesson, whether in a classroom or out in the wild world, carries a tactile or kinesthetic element that transforms raw information into embodied wisdom. It's through these methods that learning becomes not just an intellectual exercise, but a full-bodied experience. Chapter 4: The Art of Critical Thinking. Questioning Assumptions. It was a typical Tuesday when the wheels in my mind began to spin, instigated by an offhand comment from a colleague. "You always know exactly what you're talking about," she remarked, as if it were an inarguable truth. I smiled and nodded, but inwardly, a tiny ember of doubt ignited. This seemingly innocuous compliment led me to wonder, how often do I question my own beliefs and the assumptions I hold? How many times have I accepted things at face value, simply because they fit conveniently into the narrative I've constructed for myself? That evening, as I sipped my tea and stared into the murky liquid, I decided it was time for change. I resolved to carefully examine one assumption I had about my career, my relationships, and even the world every day. The first day of this self-imposed experiment, I tackled the assumption that my work methodology was the most efficient. I'd always prided myself on being thorough, often laboring over details that some considered trivial. However, I decided to try a different approach. I limited my time on each task, letting go of the urge to perfect every tiny aspect. To my surprise, not only did I complete more tasks, but the results were surprisingly comparable, and sometimes superior, to my usual painstaking efforts. The expanded horizons weren't just confined to my professional life. With relationships, I questioned the belief that personal boundaries had to be rigidly maintained to foster respect. By opening up more and allowing vulnerability, I found connections deepening in ways I hadn't anticipated. A close friend, whom I'd kept at arm's length for fear of burdening them, turned out to be an incredible source of support and understanding. However, it wasn't all smooth sailing. Questioning assumptions also brought me face to face with uncomfortable truths and forced me to confront aspects of myself I would have rather ignored. But even these moments, as challenging as they were, enriched my understanding of who I am. One particularly memorable evening, I found myself staring out the window at the city skyline, pondering the assumption that I'd never live anywhere but here. For years, I'd told myself that the city's pulse was the only rhythm I could dance to, but what if I was wrong? The thought excited and terrified me in equal measure. Could I really trade this skyline for mountain ranges or rolling fields? Could a different environment bring out parts of me I had yet to discover? Questions swirled in my mind like a storm gathering strength, leaving a palpable tension in its wake. Each question felt like a key, waiting to unlock a door behind which lay untold possibilities. And there, in the growing darkness of my room, I realized that this journey of questioning assumptions was just beginning. I was on the brink of something profoundly transformative, an uncharted territory teeming with potential and new horizons. Evaluating evidence. There's a peculiar satisfaction in unraveling complexities, like a detective piecing together a puzzle. Each fragment of evidence demands its own examination, each clue its own moment of contemplation. This is no different in our daily lives, where the torrent of information can often feel overwhelming. But the key to navigating this deluge lies in our ability to scrutinize, to sift through with a patient and discerning eye. My journey into the realm of evaluating evidence began out of necessity. I remember a time when I drowned in the sea of information, unable to distinguish fact from fluff. It was during a particularly chaotic period at work. Reports, data, opinions, all streams converging into a chaotic river. Stress hung heavy in the air, like a dense fog. As deadlines loomed, I realized the importance of meticulous evaluation for making sound decisions. One night, the office quieted to a murmur as I spread a mountain of data across my desk. I resisted the urge to rush, realizing haste could lead to erroneous conclusions. I reminded myself, context is king. Numbers without context, quotes without source, these were mirages. Slowly, I dissected each piece, questioning its origin, its purpose, its impact. Gradually, patterns emerged where there had been chaos, clarity where confusion had reigned. This experience taught me to lean on a process, a methodical series of steps. First, I identify the source. Who is presenting this information? Can I trust them? Next, I examine the evidence. What is being claimed? What proof is offered? Then, the analysis. Does the evidence support the claims conscientiously? Are there any gaps, biases, or assumptions I must account for? And finally, I reflect. How does this align with existing knowledge? What does my intuition say? Wisdom comes not just from knowledge, but from the rigor we apply to our understanding. Through evaluation, we forge a path from mere information to profound insight. And this process isn't restricted to data alone. Life itself, with all its complexities, presents endless scenarios crying out for scrutiny. Conversations, decisions, beliefs, all demanding a discerning eye to navigate with integrity and clarity. As we master this art, our conclusions gain solidity. We become architects of our own understanding, building on a foundation of well-vetted information. Remember, a sound conclusion isn't immediate, it's crafted through patience and meticulous consideration. As I enveloped myself in this mindset, not only did my decision-making improve, but so did my confidence. In a world teeming with uncertainty, the ability to evaluate evidence became my North Star. Even now, in the calm of my study, surrounded by books and notes, the practice of scrutiny remains as crucial as ever. It's an ongoing dialogue between the mind and the world, a conversation where every statement implores validation. This isn't merely a skill, but a discipline, a way of approaching life with both curiosity and caution. As I pen these thoughts, the room darkens, the day's light slipping into evening. Shadows stretch across the floor, reminding me that clarity often arises in the twilight, in moments of concentrated reflection. So, let us lean into this discipline, for in it lies the power to see the world not just as it appears, but as it truly is. Reasoning and decision-making. It was a crisp autumn evening when I first truly grasped the power of reasoning. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm, golden hue over everything. It was in this serene setting that I found myself at a crossroads, both literally and figuratively. I had always considered myself a fairly logical person, but this moment demanded more than casual logic. It required deliberate, critical thinking. Choosing a career path was the first major decision shaped by my enhanced reasoning skills. Fresh out of college, I was torn between following my passion for literature and taking a more secure job in finance. My mind was a battlefield of pros and cons, and emotions ran high, clouding my judgment. To make a sound decision, I knew I had to strip away the noise and look at the facts. Armed with a notebook and an insatiable thirst for clarity, I embarked on a mental journey that forever altered my perception of decision-making. Sitting at my desk, I began to jot down every conceivable factor: salary expectations, job stability, personal fulfillment, and growth opportunities. The very act of writing things down brought an unexpected sense of calm. The clutter in my mind started to organize itself, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. I realized that critical thinking wasn't just about weighing pros and cons. It was about scrutinizing each element with an objective lens, considering not just the immediate impact, but the long-term consequences as well. One Sunday morning, I experienced a profound epiphany that set the course for my future. Amidst a quiet park stroll, the world seemed to freeze as the distinction became clear. Passion alone was not enough, nor was financial stability the ultimate goal. True fulfillment would be a confluence of both. It dawned on me that I didn't have to choose one over the other. My decision could be a blend of passion and pragmatism. I could explore writing on the side while gaining financial stability through a more traditional career. This reasoning brought harmony to my conflicting desires and led me to choose a job in finance while dedicating my evenings to writing. The subsequent decisions in my life followed a similar pattern of critical analysis. Whether it was buying my first home or deciding to marry my partner, each choice was a testament to the skills I had honed. I remember vividly standing on the brink of buying the house. It was beautiful, no doubt, but was it truly a wise investment? With my reasoning toolkit, I dissected the market trends, inspected the property beyond its aesthetic appeal, and consulted numerous experts. It was a meticulous, almost surgical process. In the end, the decision wasn't just well-informed, it was one that brought me peace of mind, knowing I had considered every angle. But reasoning isn't infallible. It's a skill that blooms under constant nurturing and occasional adversities. One of the most challenging moments came when I had to decide whether to take a risk on a startup job. It was a leap into the unknown, far removed from the security of my well-paying job. I was tempted, yet terrified. Critical thinking required me to not just analyze the potential for success, but to evaluate my own resilience, adaptability, and the worst-case scenarios. What emerged was a clearer understanding of my tolerance for risk and my capacity for innovation. I took the plunge, and though the startup eventually folded, the experience was invaluable. It taught me resilience and the importance of adaptive thinking in decision-making. As the years rolled on, this honed sense of reasoning became the bedrock of my professional and personal life. It wasn't just about making decisions. It was about making better decisions, ones that aligned with my core values and long-term aspirations. And this process of deliberation and discernment has been nothing short of liberating. Tonight, as I sit by the window, watching the rain patter against the glass, I reflect on the myriad decisions that have shaped my journey. Each choice, each path taken or not taken, stands as a testament to the power of reasoning. It is a skill that has not only guided me through labyrinths of uncertainty, but has also illuminated the way forward with clarity and confidence. As the horizon of life continues to unfold, I embrace each new decision with the same deliberate reasoning, knowing it will lead me exactly where I am meant to be. Chapter 5. Exploring a World of Knowledge. Science and Technology. It all started with a simple curiosity, an insatiable hunger to uncover the unseen layers of the world around me. Science and technology were more than mere subjects. They were gateways, portals leading to dimensions of thought I had never explored. I remember the first time I laid my hands on a digital tablet. The cold, flat screen felt like the tactile boundary between reality and a universe of endless potential. Swiping through its features was like leafing through the pages of an unending book, each turn unearthing new wonders, from galaxies far beyond human reach to the microscopic worlds teeming within a droplet of water. Keeping up with the rapid advancements was not always easy. News stories flooded my feed with mentions of breakthroughs and innovations: quantum computing, artificial intelligence, gene editing, and more. It seemed that every week brought with it some new discovery or invention, each more astonishing than the last. However, rather than feeling overwhelmed, I found myself invigorated. The torrent of information was like a river carrying me, and I delighted in letting its current pull me toward newfound shores of understanding. Yet it wasn't just about the knowledge itself, it was about how that knowledge reshaped my perception of the world. Every fact, every piece of information, altered the lens through which I viewed my existence. Understanding the intricacies of how my smartphone functioned made me appreciate the genius and hard work of engineers and developers. Realizing the potential of renewable energy sources instilled in me a sense of optimism about combating climate change. Knowing the exponential trajectory of artificial intelligence filled me with equal parts excitement and caution. Much of this understanding came from self-study, late nights spent under the warm glow of a desk lamp, my eyes glued to the screen as I read research papers and watched educational videos. But it was not a solitary journey. Online forums and social media groups provided communities where I could exchange ideas, ask questions, and obtain perspectives that broadened my horizons even further. Discussions ranging from the ethical ramifications of CRISPR gene editing to the societal impacts of widespread automation kept me engaged and constantly thinking. Slowly, this trove of knowledge began to extend beyond the realm of personal enrichment. It started influencing my everyday decisions, from the way I chose to commute to work using eco-friendly options, to my growing preference for energy-efficient appliances. The ripple effect of staying informed started to permeate my professional life as well, providing me with the tools to innovate and think critically in my field. As engaging as this journey was, there were always moments that nudged me towards deeper introspection. One such occasion was when I delved into the ethical considerations of artificial intelligence. At first, the logical structures and problem-solving capabilities seemed like the pinnacle of human achievement, a testament to our intellectual prowess. But then came the darker questions. What happens when machines surpass human intelligence? Will they always align with our values and morals, or will they evolve in unforeseen ways? That gnawing uncertainty compelled me to look not just at what was possible, but at what was responsible. I found myself poring over articles and discussions by ethicists and technologists, weighing varied perspectives. This was no longer just an adventure into scientific discovery. It was a quest to grapple with the very essence of our humanity and what it meant in an increasingly digital world. Staying updated in these fields has indeed broadened my knowledge landscape, but it has done much more than that. It has fostered a sense of interconnectedness, a realization that in this web of advancements, each of us holds a strand of the future. We are all weavers in this tapestry of progress, and it is both our privilege and responsibility to ensure that what we create enhances the human experience, rather than diminishes it. As I continue to explore this ever-evolving realm, I remain anchored in the humility of wonder and the drive for ethical integrity. The boundaries of what we can achieve are bound only by the limits of our imagination and our capacity for wisdom. And as I prepare to dive deeper, I can't help but feel a mixture of exhilaration and solemnity, knowing that each revelation not only broadens my understanding, but also thickens the plot of this grand narrative we are all writing together. History and culture. I have always been a curious soul, constantly asking questions about the world and my place in it. This intrinsic curiosity led me through many avenues, but it was the study of history and culture that truly captured my imagination. From ancient civilizations to contemporary societies, every epoch seemed like a vast, unexplored landscape, filled with stories and lessons waiting to be discovered. Exploring history became a form of time travel for me. Through the pages of books, the ruins of once great cities, and the echoing voices of historians, I felt myself transported. The rise and fall of empires, the revolutions that reshaped continents, and the silent persistence of cultures over millennia formed a tapestry that was as intricate as it was fascinating. Each historical era I studied revealed something profound about human nature and the forces that shape our existence. For instance, while exploring the Renaissance, I marveled at how an explosion of art, science, and literature was rooted in a rekindled interest in the ancient texts. The Enlightenment taught me the power of intellect and reason, while the Industrial Revolution presented a darker lesson on progress and its costs. Beyond the grand narratives of history, it was the fragments of daily life that struck me the most. How people lived, loved, and fought in centuries past mirrored our own experiences today. I found myself drawing parallels between the traditional tales of ancient cultures and the stories I heard in my own community. This realization bridged the gap between then and now, adding layers to my understanding of contemporary societal issues. Culture, too, played a pivotal role in my journey. It provided context to the histories I studied and revealed the soul of different eras. From folklore and mythology to art and architecture, each cultural artifact was a whisper from the past. It spoke of the values, beliefs, and aspirations of the people who created them. This connection enriched my appreciation for modern cultural expressions, allowing me to see them not merely as entertainment or tradition, but as a continuation of a long, unbroken line of human creativity. As my understanding deepened, so did my respect for the diversity of human experience. I began to see the interconnectedness of all cultures, how the exchange of ideas and practices forged the world we live in today. This realization made me more empathetic and open-minded, transforming my perception of global events and regional customs. But, as enthralling as this journey was, it also carried a weight of responsibility. I started to feel the urgency to preserve these histories and cultures, to ensure that future generations would not be severed from the rich legacies of their ancestors. It became clear that our understanding of the past shapes our identity and informs our decisions, making it imperative that we honor and sustain this knowledge. In exploring history and culture, I found a mirror reflecting not just the world but myself. It challenged my assumptions, broadened my horizons, and enriched my life's narrative. And it left me with one burning question: what will future generations learn from us, and how will our present shape their past? The arts and humanities. The first time I found myself truly captivated by the arts was in an old, dusty library nestled in the heart of town. I could almost hear the crackle of centuries-old pages as I gingerly opened a volume filled with intricate sketches and sprawling manuscripts. Each line drawn, each word penned, felt like a glimpse into not just another time, but another world. It was here, amidst these relics of creativity, that my journey into the arts and humanities began. Engaging with the arts and humanities, initially, felt like discovering a hidden language. Whether it was interpreting the subtle brushstrokes of a painting, uncovering the layers of meaning in poetry, or understanding the profound philosophies that have shaped civilizations, each encounter was a voyage into the unknown. I remember sitting through my first art history lecture, mesmerized by the vivid slides of Renaissance masterpieces projected on the screen. The lecturer's passionate narrative of how these works influenced, and were influenced by, the times they were created in, hooked me instantly. As I delved deeper, I found that these subjects did more than just fill my head with knowledge. They filled my soul with questions and empathy. Literature became a portal to diverse perspectives, giving me insight into lives and experiences far removed from mine. Philosophical debates in dimly lit classrooms challenged my beliefs, broadened my horizons, and sometimes left me in a state of reflective turmoil. Complex ethical dilemmas tackled in history lessons added rich layers to my understanding of the human condition. Each class, each book, each discussion, made me more conscious of the intricate tapestry of human thought and creativity that our world is woven from. It wasn't long before these fields began to influence other areas of my life. A deeper appreciation for aesthetics bled into my everyday experiences, from the way I arranged my living space to the music I found myself drawn to. My exposure to various cultures through literature and history enriched my social interactions, making conversations with friends and strangers alike more meaningful and informed. Moreover, the critical thinking skills honed by dissecting complex philosophical arguments and literary themes empowered me to analyze and navigate real-world issues with a nuanced perspective. The most profound realization hit me during a project that required integrating what I had learned in art and history with technology. I worked on a multimedia presentation that juxtaposed classical art forms with modern digital interpretations. It was a challenging task that demanded I apply my analytical skills, creative thinking, and technical knowledge all at once. The thrill of combining these elements into something cohesive and engaging was unlike anything I'd felt before. It was a testament to how the arts and humanities aren't just academic subjects. They are vital, vibrant contributions to our capacity for innovation and understanding. Reflecting on this journey, it's clear how indelible the impact of the arts and humanities has been on my life and learning. These fields taught me to appreciate complexity, to seek depth rather than surface, and to connect with others on a more profound level. They instilled in me a lifelong passion for exploration and a resilience that comes from understanding the breadth of human experience. In a world that often prioritizes the tangible and the immediate, the arts and humanities remind us of the enduring power of creativity and thought. As I conclude this reflection, I find myself yearning for more knowledge, more perspectives, more beauty, more humanity. And isn't that the true essence of learning? The constant desire to expand our horizons, to see beyond the familiar, and to understand the world, and ourselves, more deeply. The arts and humanities, in all their multifaceted glory, have shown me that education is not just a means to an end, but a never-ending journey of discovery. Chapter 6: Mastering Time Management. Setting Priorities. It all started during my second year of college. The days grew shorter as coursework intensified, yet my extracurricular activities stubbornly refused to shrink. Balancing my studies with a part-time job, friendships, and personal time felt like juggling flaming swords. However, I soon discovered that the secret to managing it all lay in setting priorities. The first breakthrough occurred one late evening. Overwhelmed, I slumped in my chair, surrounded by unread books and undone assignments. It was then that I decided to map out my next day. Listing tasks from most critical to least, I allocated specific times for each. That simple sheet of paper acted like a compass, guiding me through the storm of responsibilities with newfound clarity. Prioritizing helped me recognize the tasks impacting my academic progress the most. Those held the highest rank on my list. I learned the art of filtering out minor distractions, focusing instead on assignments with impending deadlines. Not only did this boost my grades, but it also imparted a sense of control and purpose. My social life didn't have to suffer either. By carving out dedicated study times, I was able to free up evenings for friends and weekend outings. I must admit, the allure of a spontaneous night out still occasionally clashed with my structured schedule, but the balance I found made such conflicts rare and manageable. Diversions became rewards rather than disruptions. Ultimately, prioritizing wasn't just about managing schoolwork. It permeated every aspect of my life. At work, I started sorting tasks similarly, identifying urgent projects and distinguishing them from routine duties. It enhanced my productivity and, incidentally, earned me recognition from my supervisor, which felt incredibly rewarding. The true test came when a family emergency collided with an important exam week. My nerves frayed, and the specter of failure loomed large. But the habit of prioritizing, now deeply ingrained, provided a scaffold to lean on. My focus turned towards what needed immediate attention. Family came first, but I delegated study tasks for peak times of mental clarity, early mornings, and late evenings, ensuring no area of my life was neglected. As I reflect on those challenging days, the power of setting priorities stands out as a critical skill. It wasn't just a tool for academic success, but a means to harmonize the disparate elements of my life. Each day offered a new challenge, and each challenge was met with a structured approach that turned potential chaos into composed achievement. So, whatever life throws your way, remember, setting your priorities straight can make even the stormiest seas navigable. Effective study habits. I've spent countless hours hunched over textbooks, digital screens, and scribbled notes. Over time, I've developed a toolkit of study habits that have not only boosted my productivity, but also turned learning into a deeply satisfying journey. Today, I want to share some practical tips from my own experiences, nuggets of wisdom that have shaped my lifelong learning habits. Let's start with environment. The space where you study can either be a sanctuary for productivity or a minefield of distractions. I found that a clean, well-organized, and quiet space helps me dive deep into the subject matter. I also try to personalize it with a few inspiring items, a framed quote, my favorite mug, or a comforting plant, that keep the ambience both functional and pleasant. It's like creating a microcosm dedicated solely to learning. Next, let's talk about time. One hero technique that stood out for me is time blocking. I use a planner to section off dedicated study hours, and I stick to that schedule as rigidly as possible. By allocating specific times for study sessions, I avoid the trap of endless procrastination. Plus, breaking down the day into focused segments for different subjects or tasks helps me to stay organized and prevents burnout. One might think multitasking is a skill to be proud of, but I found it to be a productivity killer. Instead, I employ the Pomodoro technique, working in intervals, usually 25 minutes long, with short breaks in between. This not only keeps my mind sharp, but also makes overwhelming tasks seem more manageable. A timer ticking down beside my notebook has become a close companion. Another noteworthy tip is active learning. Rather than passively reading or listening, I engage with the material. During my studies, I take diligent notes, highlight key points, and summarize sections in my own words. Teaching the material to someone else is another method I use. Explaining complex concepts in simpler terms helps me internalize the information and identify gaps in my understanding. As someone who loves technology, using digital tools has transformed my study habits. Apps for flashcards, like Anki, and note-taking apps, like Evernote, offer versatile ways to review and organize information. Online forums and study groups provide platforms for discussion and clarification. But it's crucial to strike a balance and not let these tools become distractions themselves. Your well-being is paramount. I can't stress enough the importance of maintaining a healthy body and mind. Regular exercise, balanced nutrition, and adequate sleep are as vital as any study technique. When my body feels good, my brain functions better. It's the foundation upon which effective study habits rest. Finally, mindset plays a significant role. A growth mindset, believing that abilities can be developed through hard work and dedication, turns challenges into opportunities for improvement. Instead of getting disheartened by setbacks, I reflect on them as learning experiences. Perseverance and resilience are just as crucial as any study tip, perhaps even more so. As we navigate our unique educational journeys, these habits and techniques will undoubtedly be reshaped and refined. What works for one may need tweaking for another. The key is to remain open to experimenting and evolving our methods. Embrace the process of learning how to learn, and the benefits will be lifelong. Managing procrastination. There I was again, staring at the blinking cursor on my screen. The essay on Renaissance art, which had seemed so compelling just yesterday, now felt like an insurmountable mountain of words. I could almost hear the tick of the clock mocking me, counting down the minutes to the deadline. I knew this cycle all too well. Procrastination had gotten the best of me. But this time, I wasn't going to let it win. Over the years, I've developed a toolbox of strategies to conquer procrastination, and they have been nothing short of a lifeline. One of the most effective methods I've found is breaking down tasks. Instead of thinking about writing the entire essay, I'd focus on just the introduction. It felt much less daunting that way. Once I got started, momentum would often carry me forward. Another strategy that has proven invaluable is setting specific goals and deadlines for myself. External deadlines create a sense of urgency, but internal ones can be just as powerful. By writing down what I aim to achieve each hour, I created a roadmap that kept me on track. It was like having a personal coach cheering me on. Yet, the real game changer was the realization that I didn't have to do it all alone. Sometimes, sharing my goals with a friend or study buddy made a world of difference. We'd check in on each other's progress, celebrate small victories, and encourage each other through the inevitable rough patches. Knowing somebody else was rooting for me made it harder to justify putting things off. Technology has been both a friend and a foe in this journey. The internet is a treasure trove of distractions, but I've found ways to turn it into an ally. Apps like timers that enforce work periods followed by short breaks, or website blockers that prevent me from wandering onto social media, have been instrumental in keeping my focus sharp. One particularly tough semester, I stumbled upon a technique called temptation bundling. The idea was simple: pair something you enjoy with something you need to do. For example, I would only let myself listen to my favorite podcast while working on assignments. It became a reward system that tricked my brain into seeing work as a gateway to pleasure. Of course, even the best strategies falter sometimes. On days when procrastination gnawed at my resolve, I'd remind myself to be kind to myself. Beating myself up would only sap my motivation further. Instead, I'd take a moment to breathe, recalibrate, and start again. The key was to keep moving forward, no matter how small the steps. By compiling these strategies, I learned how to maintain momentum in my learning journey. Procrastination was a worthy adversary, but each victory, no matter how small, built a stronger resolve within me. I realized that the power to overcome it was always within my grasp. I just needed to harness it. As the ticking clock continued its relentless march, I knew I was ready. This time, I was in control. Chapter 7. Overcoming Learning Plateaus. Mindset Shifts for Breakthroughs. There was a time when I believed that struggling academically was a sign of weakness. It wasn't until I reframed my failures as opportunities for growth that I truly began to excel. One pivotal moment came during my second year in university. I was knee-deep in my physics coursework, feeling overwhelmed and completely out of my depth. No matter how many hours I poured over my textbooks, the concepts just wouldn't stick. One night, after a particularly rough day, I stumbled upon a quote by Thomas Edison: "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." For the first time, I considered the possibility that my failures weren't definitive endpoints. They were instead stepping stones on the path to understanding. This was my first major mindset shift, the idea that perseverance in the face of adversity was a necessary part of the learning process. Armed with this new perspective, I approached my studies differently. I began to ask questions without fear of appearing ignorant and sought out resources beyond the required texts. Slowly, but surely, the concepts started to make sense. By the end of that semester, not only had I passed with flying colors, but I had also discovered a deep passion for a subject I once dreaded. Changing my perception of failure transformed a potential academic disaster into a triumphant breakthrough. Years later, another mindset shift catalyzed a significant milestone in my career. As a teacher, I initially found it challenging to connect with my students. I held the belief that maintaining a strict, no-nonsense demeanor was essential for classroom management and respect. However, this approach led to an atmosphere of tension and disengagement. I realized that my rigid mindset was a barrier to effective teaching. Inspired by Carol Dweck's work on growth mindset, I decided to adopt a more empathetic, student-centered approach. I encouraged open communication, celebrated small victories, and showed genuine interest in my students' lives. This shift in mindset didn't just improve classroom dynamics, it reignited a passion for teaching that I thought I had lost. Witnessing my students' enthusiasm and progress became the most rewarding aspect of my career. But the most profound mindset shift came when I experienced burnout a few years ago. Juggling professional responsibilities and personal aspirations started to feel like an impossible balancing act. I was so focused on the end goals that I neglected the importance of the journey itself. My accomplishments began to feel hollow, and I was left questioning the very definition of success. In a serendipitous encounter, a mentor advised me to practice mindfulness and to find joy in the present moment. This required a fundamental change in how I viewed time and accomplishment. Instead of fixating on future achievements, I started valuing daily progress, no matter how small. This shift didn't just alleviate my burnout, it profoundly enriched my life. For the first time, I felt a deep-seated contentment, irrespective of external successes or failures. These mindset shifts, viewing failure as a learning opportunity, adopting empathy and openness, and valuing the journey over the destination, have been instrumental in achieving breakthroughs. They have taught me that the way we choose to perceive our challenges can either be a roadblock or a catalyst for profound personal and professional growth. Seeking mentorship. It was a serendipitous encounter, really, one of those moments you look back on and see as a defining turn in your story. I was fresh out of college, armed with a slick degree but utterly clueless about the labyrinth ahead. My passion was writing, but I consistently felt as if I were scribbling in the dark. It was during a literary workshop that I first met Ms. Eleanor Reed. A seasoned author of numerous bestsellers, she commanded respect not through grandeur, but through an undeniable aura of wisdom and serenity. Her eyes seemed to sparkle with the intrigue of countless untold stories. With a hint of hesitation, I gathered the courage to approach her after the workshop. I still remember the way her eyes crinkled at the corners as she listened intently to my woes and aspirations. Instead of brushing me off or offering vague platitudes, she invited me to her study, a sanctuary of books and manuscripts, where she mentored me. Ms. Reed's guidance was a revelation. She was as much a mirror as she was a lamp. Under her tutelage, I fumbled through my prose, a jumble of energy and confusion, and she helped me find clarity and purpose. I recall one particular session where she induced a eureka moment that shifted my entire perspective on writing. She asked me to describe an ordinary object, a mundane item like a teacup, as though it held a secret world within. That exercise not only sharpened my descriptive skills, but also deepened my attention to minute details. But it wasn't just the craft she impacted. Ms. Reed shared stories from her own tumultuous journey, tales of rejection, self-doubt, and insatiable perseverance. It comforted and inspired me to know that even a literary giant like her had faced daunting trials. Her anecdotes humanized her success, making it seem reachable, albeit with effort and dedication. As the months flew by, my writing flourished, but so did my understanding of what it meant to be a storyteller. Ms. Reed was more than a mentor. She was a beacon guiding me through the murky waters of self-doubt and uncertainty. Each piece of wisdom she imparted felt like a breadcrumb leading me closer to my true voice as a writer. Reflecting upon those transformative months, I realized seeking mentorship wasn't merely about acquiring knowledge or honing skills. It was about finding someone who believed in me even when my own faith wavered. It was about discovering that the path to mastery is seldom walked alone, and that the right mentor can illuminate the hidden paths within. Just as I began to feel the exhilaration of my strides in writing, an unexpected challenge loomed ahead, a development I'd soon come to grapple with, testing every lesson Ms. Reed had so carefully imparted. But that's a tale for another chapter. Experimenting with new approaches. The sunlight filtered through the dusty blinds of my study, casting a soft, warm glow over the scattered notes and open textbooks. Today was the day I had committed to trying something new. Traditional methods had plateaued my growth, and I needed a change. My head buzzed with anticipation and a hint of nervous energy. Could I unearth an approach that would rekindle my passion for learning? I had spent the previous week gathering different strategies, each promising to unlock new levels of understanding. First on my list was the Pomodoro technique, a method promising higher productivity through short, focused intervals of work followed by brief breaks. Setting my timer for 25 minutes, I dove into my material, my fingers dancing across the keyboard. The first few intervals were met with skepticism, but soon, I found a rhythm. Each break became a reward, a brief respite that propelled me back into the task with renewed vigor. Despite the initial success, I couldn't help but try more. Flashcards were next. I remembered using them in school, but this time, I integrated spaced repetition. Using an app, I noticed retention rates climb remarkably. Concepts I struggled with before slowly embedded themselves into my memory, each flash of the card solidifying knowledge and building confidence. My desk, once a symbol of monotony, transformed into a battleground of innovation. I experimented with mind mapping, sketching ideas and concepts in a visual web that connected abstract thoughts. The chaotic lines and bubbles that filled my page reflected the increasingly clear connections in my mind, turning complexity into clarity. Not every method was an instant hit. The Feynman technique, which involved teaching the material to someone else, felt awkward and forced at first. But as I narrated complex subjects to an imaginary student, I identified gaps in my understanding. This method, although uncomfortable, forced a deeper engagement with the content, turning uncertainty into confidence. The room's light shifted as afternoon became evening. Each experiment, whether a resounding success or a humbling struggle, brought me closer to discovering what worked best for me. Each strategy was a puzzle piece, fitting into the larger picture of my learning journey. My study was no longer a confinement, but an arena of growth and discovery. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the room in shades of purple and orange, I realized that these varied approaches did more than teach me the material. They instilled in me an adaptable mindset, a willingness to embrace the new and challenging. This chapter of experimentation was far from over. It was a dynamic continuum of growth and innovation. The final hours of the day loomed, and with them, a lingering question. What new method would tomorrow bring? Was there a perfect strategy still hidden, waiting to be unearthed? As I tidied my desk, a sense of excitement coursed through me. The journey was far from complete, and each step was a thrilling experiment in itself. Chapter 8: The Joy of Unconventional Learning. Travel as Education. Travel has always been more than a mere escape for me. It's an all-encompassing classroom that offers profound lessons and unparalleled experiences. My first real awareness of this came during a trip to the bustling city of Tokyo. The organized chaos, the seamless blend of tradition and technology. This was a place where the past and future converged. I wandered through ancient temples that whispered tales of a bygone era, only to step outside into dazzling districts teeming with neon lights and ultramodern skyscrapers. Every corner of Tokyo seemed to teach me something new, whether it was the mindfulness imbued in a tea ceremony or the efficiency of their metro system. Then there was my expedition to the remote highlands of Peru, a stark contrast to the urban maze of Tokyo. Hiking along the Inca Trail, I felt a connection not just to the landscape, but to the whispers of ancient civilizations that seemed to float in the crisp mountain air. Each step I took was steeped in history, each moment a lesson in resilience. The high-altitude air may have been thin, but it was dense with wisdom. Here, I learned that education isn't confined to books and lectures. It's also in the silent strength of the Andes and the ingenuity of terraced farming that has sustained communities for centuries. Italy, too, offered its own curriculum, one that appealed to the artist and scholar in me. Rome's Colosseum narrated tales of grandeur and brutality, teaching me the complexities of human nature and the duality of glory and sacrifice. The Renaissance art in Florence was a lavish feast for my eyes and soul, each stroke of a fresco illuminating the interplay between creativity and intellect. Venice, with its intricate canals and serenading gondoliers, showed me the art of adaptation, of flourishing in a unique environment. It's these experiences that remain etched in my memory, far more vivid than any classroom lecture. But what makes travel the ultimate educator? Perhaps it's the unpredictability of the journey itself. Take the unplanned detour I once made through the Moroccan desert, guided by a local Berber. As we navigated the vast, shifting sands, I learned about survival, hospitality, and the timeless wisdom passed down through generations. Conversation over mint tea under a canopy of stars became an exchange of cultures, an unending lesson in humanity. There was also the time I found myself in a small Turkish village during Ramadan. Invited by an elderly couple to break fast with them, I gleaned an understanding of community, devotion, and generosity. These were lessons that transcended language barriers, offering insights that were as much about the heart as the mind. As these journeys accumulate, so do the layers of my understanding. I've come to realize that every place has its own narrative, its own set of teachings waiting to be uncovered. The world itself is a vast, interconnected syllabus, and each destination a unique chapter. The more I travel, the more I comprehend that education is not a destination, but an ever-evolving journey. It's the people I meet, the stories I hear, the unexpected challenges I face that continually expand my horizons and redefine my perspective. And it's not merely about accumulating knowledge, it's about transformation. Each trip molds me in ways I can't predict, enriching my life and broadening my outlook. The world becomes my classroom, and I, an eternal student eagerly turning the next page. As I prepare for my next adventure, I feel a familiar rush of excitement, tinged with the understanding that it will bring new lessons, new growth. And with that, I step forward, eager to embrace the unknown, knowing that the education I seek is right around the corner. Exploring nature's lessons. My first foray into the intricate labyrinth of nature began as a child, where the forest behind my house became both playground and classroom. I remember my mother's warning calls at dusk, urging me to return home before darkness immersed the woods. In those sunlit hours, the forest unfurled its secrets, the ancient oak tree swung its branches like stories waiting to be told, and the babbling brook played a symphony that only the attentive heart could hear. Years later, in a bustling city where concrete and steel sought to cage my spirit, the pull towards nature never waned. I embarked on regular retreats to national parks and secluded trails, sensing a need to reconnect with the profound simplicity of the natural world. One crisp autumn morning, wandering through a nearly forgotten path, I stumbled upon an old clearing embraced by towering firs. Here, solitude sang loudest. Time dilated, turning moments languid, allowing thoughts to crystallize with unprecedented clarity. It was in this clearing that I began to absorb nature's lessons with renewed perspective. The patient growth of trees, unfurling ring by ring, each signifying another year of survival and adaptation. Watching squirrels meticulously gather food for the winter reminded me of the value of preparation and foresight. Even the resilient wildflowers, pushing through the stubborn soil, taught resilience and hope, blooming vividly despite adversity. One summer's day, caught in an unexpected downpour while trekking through dense woods, I sought shelter under a canopy of leaves. Raindrops cascaded through the foliage, each droplet a reminder of life's unpredictability and the importance of finding refuge within oneself. My serene contemplations were interrupted by a flash of lightning, splitting the sky, awakening an acute awareness of nature's power and fragility. Each interaction with the natural world has been a lesson in humility. The mighty mountains, steadfast and eternal, contrasted sharply with our transient existence, urging me to appreciate each fleeting moment. Standing by the ocean's edge, the rhythmic waves shared their wisdom. Surrender to the flow, embrace the ebb and tide of life's experiences, and find balance in the constant motion. As I navigated through dense forests and scaled rugged cliffs, I realized that nature spoke in a language beyond words, a universal dialect of existence and interdependence. Each living entity, from the smallest insect to the tallest tree, played a role in the harmony of the ecosystem. This intricate web, where everything held significance, illuminated the interwoven nature of my own life, teaching a crucial lesson in perspective and gratitude. In embracing nature's teachings, I discovered a path to inner peace and a deeper understanding of my place in the world. It was a place where the soul found clarity amidst chaos, and the heart beat in rhythm with the earth's ancient pulse. These life lessons, imparted by a generous and wise mentor, will forever guide my journey, reminding me to slow down, listen, and learn from the world around me. Learning through personal experiences. Every significant lesson I've learned in life wasn't taught in a classroom. It was the trials and triumphs of real-world experiences that carved out my true education. One particular instance leans heavily on my mind when I think about how personal encounters have shaped my learning curve. It all started when I was fresh out of college, bright-eyed and full of ambitions. I landed a job at a tech startup, excited by the idea of contributing to something groundbreaking. But nothing could have prepared me for the reality of the situations I faced. The first major project I was assigned to was an app development task with an impossibly tight deadline. I remember the sense of overwhelming pressure as I stayed late nights, fueled by cups of hastily brewed coffee. One evening, struggling to get the coding right, I realized I was on the verge of a breakdown. I took a deep breath and stepped outside, feeling the cool night air wash over me. That's when it hit me. I was so caught up in the whirlwind of deadlines that I'd forgotten to take a step back and strategize. The next day, I approached my team lead and requested a meeting. I laid out a structured plan, dividing tasks based on everyone's strengths, and suggested regular check-ins. To my surprise, she nodded and agreed. That experience taught me the power of taking initiative and the importance of clear communication. We managed to deliver the project on time, and with better efficiency than anticipated. The pride I felt wasn't just about completing the task, but about the growth it spurred in me. I learned the value of stepping back, analyzing situations, and putting forth practical solutions. My journey didn't stop there. Over the years, I've faced numerous challenges, from dealing with team conflicts to navigating office politics. Each situation was a classroom in its own right, rich with lessons that no textbook could ever offer. One of the most poignant moments was when I lost a significant client due to a misunderstanding. The sting of that failure was powerful, but it also pushed me to develop better listening skills and a greater empathy for client needs. Personal experiences are untamed and unpredictable, molding us in ways we can't foresee. As I reflect, I recognize that it's these moments of real-world learning that have become the cornerstone of my professional and personal growth. With each setback and achievement, I learned the principles of resilience, adaptability, and continuous learning. Indeed, it's the relentless cycle of life's experiences that has furnished me with the wisdom that I cherish today. Chapter 9. Success Stories of Lifelong Learners. Pioneers in Education. The scent of old parchment mingled with a subtle hint of coffee as I settled into my favorite armchair, a thick tome on educational pioneers resting on my lap. There's an air of reverence in holding such a book, a compilation of lives dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge and to shaping the minds of future generations. As I flip through its pages, I'm greeted by familiar names: Froebel, Montessori, Dewey, each one a beacon in the vast sea of pedagogy. I remember the first time I encountered the works of Maria Montessori. The structure and freedom she advocated for in the classroom resonated deeply with me. Montessori's philosophy that education should be a natural, self-directed process opened my eyes to new possibilities. Rather than shaping students to fit into predefined molds, her methods championed the individual potential of each learner. It was a significant shift from the rigid, rote learning paradigms I had experienced. John Dewey's pragmatism further enriched my appreciation for progressive education. Dewey's belief in learning by doing redefined the way I approached my own continuous learning. The classroom, according to Dewey, was not just a place for passive absorption of information, but a dynamic environment where students engaged with real-life problems and collaborated toward solutions. This perspective prompted me to seek out learning opportunities that were hands-on, immersive, and aligned with my real-world experiences. Then there was Johann Heinrich Pestalozzi, whose insights into the importance of a nurturing educational environment reinforced my understanding of the emotional dimensions of learning. His conviction that education must balance head, heart, and hands has stuck with me over the years. I found myself revisiting my past educational experiences, both enlightening and disheartening, and understanding them through Pestalozzi's compassionate lens. The humanity embedded in his approach fueled my drive to create spaces where empathy and intellectual growth coexist harmoniously. Through countless reading sessions under my dimly lit lamp, these educational pioneers became more than historical figures. They became mentors and sources of inspiration. Their innovative spirits and relentless pursuit of improving education propelled my own journey forward. I began to realize that their stories were not just about teaching methodologies, but about challenging the status quo, embracing change, and nurturing curiosity. Their profound impact on my life was not merely theoretical. It manifested in practical changes, from altering my study habits to engaging more meaningfully in public discourse on education. I took on mentoring roles, drawing from the philosophies that had guided and enriched my learning process. In every student's eager question and every moment of discovery, I saw echoes of Froebel's kindergartens, Montessori's prepared environments, Dewey's active classrooms, and Pestalozzi's holistic care. With every page turned, I felt a growing connection to these trailblazers. Their legacies were not just woven into the fabric of educational history, but into the tapestry of my own life. My heart beat a little faster as I neared the final chapters of the book, each pioneer's journey feeling like a personal call to action. How might I continue their work, and in what ways could I contribute to the evolving landscape of education? My thoughts raced with possibilities, each one a tribute to the pioneers who had walked this path before me. I closed the book, not with a sense of finality, but with anticipation. The stories of these educational visionaries were far from over. They were merely the beginning of my own quest to champion lifelong learning. As I gazed at the bookshelf, brimming with yet-to-be-discovered wisdom, I knew my journey of exploration and contribution had only just begun. Personal Growth Tales. In the stillness of the early morning, when the world seemed to be suspended between dreams and reality, I often found myself contemplating the winding paths of my life. My journey was never a straight line, but rather a labyrinth of choices, lessons, and transformations. Each twist and turn represented an opportunity to learn and grow, moments that have shaped the person I am today. Among my earliest memories of personal growth was my struggle with self-confidence. As a child, I was painfully shy, the kind of kid who would rather hide behind a book than engage in conversation. The world outside my little bubble felt overwhelming, its myriad possibilities weighing on me like an anchor. But then came a pivotal moment during a school play when I was thrust into the spotlight. Fear gripped me, yet it was in facing that fear that I began to realize the untapped potential within me. Acting on stage, my voice trembling at first, then finding its steady rhythm, was a breakthrough. It was as if a flame had been lit, driving away the shadows of self-doubt. This ignition of confidence was more than a fleeting experience. It became a cornerstone in my narrative of personal growth. From that moment, I sought out challenges, pushing the boundaries of my comfort zone. Yet, no journey of growth is without its setbacks. One of the most impactful experiences came during my university years. I had always been a diligent student, but a particularly demanding semester brought me to my knees. The pressures of coursework, part-time jobs, and social obligations created a storm I could not weather. After a significant academic failure, I found myself at a crossroad of despair and determination. It was during this low point that I sought mentorship, the guidance of someone who had walked similar paths. My mentor taught me the art of resilience, the power of persistence, and the importance of self-care. Through his teachings, I learned that personal growth is not a destination, but a continuous journey. This chapter of struggle and mentorship taught me that failure is not the end, but a pivotal plot twist in the tale of growth. Another tale of transformation involved a summer spent volunteering abroad. Immersed in a culture vastly different from my own, I was forced to confront my preconceived notions and biases. The experience was humbling and enlightening. Working with communities facing significant challenges broadened my perspective and instilled a sense of gratitude and empathy. These were not just personal gains, they were values that would influence my decisions and relationships for years to come. As I reflect on these personal growth tales, the thread that weaves them together is the continual pursuit of learning. Growth, I have come to understand, is fueled by a curiosity and a willingness to embrace the unknown. It's about transforming learning opportunities into stepping stones, no matter how daunting they initially appear. And now, as I stand on the cusp of yet another chapter, the lessons of the past are my compass. The journey of personal development is ongoing, and each day presents a new page to be written. What tales of growth await me next, I cannot say, but I am ready. Are you? Lessons from renowned educators. Walking into Professor Mitchell's classroom for the first time felt like stepping into another world. The rows of books lining the walls cast a spell of curiosity upon us. He started the class not by diving into the syllabus, but with a question: "What does learning mean to you?" Silence enveloped the room as we pondered. When answers finally emerged, they were diverse: insights about gaining knowledge, overcoming challenges, and sparking curiosity. "Good," he nodded. "Now, hold on to those thoughts for the rest of the semester." This unconventional beginning set the stage for all that was to come. Professor Mitchell's unique approach taught me that education isn't merely a transactional exchange of facts. It's an evolving journey that requires both the teacher and the student to actively participate. It was in his class that I realized the importance of asking questions, even the ones that seemed trivial at first glance. He made it clear that every question was a door to deeper understanding, and those who dared to ask would find themselves on the most rewarding paths. Then there was Mrs. Chin, a mathematics teacher who emanated warmth and patience. I struggled with calculus, found myself entangled in its complexities, and on the verge of giving up. But Mrs. Chin offered guidance that felt more like a gentle push. "Think of each problem as a story," she said. "Every equation has characters and a plot, leading to a resolution." This metaphor turned the abstract into something relatable. She showed me that seeing the beauty in patterns and relationships could turn frustration into fascination. Mrs. Chin wasn't just teaching math. She was opening up a new way of seeing the world, a world full of interconnected components, all fitting together in unexpected ways. She never let me feel inadequate for not getting it right away, but instead celebrated every small victory, making sure I understood that persistence was as crucial as talent. My journey was further enriched by Dr. Singh, a historian with a zeal for storytelling that could enchant any listener. History, to him, was not a series of dates and events, but a collection of human experiences, replete with lessons and warnings. Dr. Singh's lectures felt like time travel. He transported us to bygone eras, making us feel the pulse of past civilizations. He had this remarkable ability to draw parallels between ancient conflicts and modern dilemmas, making history profoundly relevant. From him, I learned the power of narrative to make sense of chaos. He urged us to always question the moral dimensions of historical events and to understand the motives and emotions of those who shaped the world. "History," he would often say, "is the greatest teacher if you listen well enough to hear its whispers." The teachings of these educators weren't limited to academics. They imparted wisdom on resilience, curiosity, and the joy of discovery. They taught me that learning is an endless quest, punctuated by moments of clarity and doubt, joy and frustration. As I reflect on their lessons, I am reminded of how each one of them, in their unique way, has shaped my intellectual and emotional growth, illuminating paths that were otherwise hidden. As I walk down memory lane, recalling the insights and encouragement received, a sense of gratitude envelopes me. These mentors have become voices in my head, guiding me through life's labyrinth long after our classroom discussions have ended. And with each step, I find myself equipped not just with knowledge, but with a deeper understanding of what it means to truly learn and grow. Chapter 10: Embracing Failure as a Learning Opportunity. Resilience amidst setbacks. The crisp dawn air brushed against my face as I stepped out the front door, ready to embrace the challenges of another day. Little did I know, this day would bring a fresh storm of setbacks, testing every ounce of resilience I had built up over the years. It's remarkable how life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. But somewhere along the winding path of my life, I learned that true resilience isn't just about overcoming obstacles. It's about the fortitude to keep pursuing your dreams, even when the world seems to conspire against you. My passion for education wasn't something that blossomed overnight. It grew gradually, nourished by both triumphs and tribulations. I remember my early years as a hopeful student, absorbing knowledge with an insatiable appetite. Yet, the journey was far from smooth. I faced challenges that tested not only my intellect, but also my spirit. One semester, an unexpected illness kept me bedridden during final exams. My grades plummeted, and I felt the sting of failure keenly. It was a significant setback, one that could have derailed my academic aspirations entirely. Instead, it became a turning point. During those weeks of recovery, I discovered the true meaning of resilience. It wasn't just about bouncing back, it was about bouncing forward with greater determination. I doubled down on my studies, sought extra help, and slowly, my grades began to recover. That challenging phase fortified my resolve and intensified my passion for education. It taught me that setbacks, while discouraging, are often the catalysts for immense personal growth. Over the years, I've applied this lesson repeatedly. Each setback, whether trivial or monumental, has served as an opportunity to refine my skills and strengthen my resolve. When I started teaching, I was met with resistance from students who were disengaged and disinterested. It would have been easy to become disheartened, to believe that my passion and efforts were futile. But I remembered the hardships I had overcome, the resilience that had carried me through, and I refused to give up. Slowly, I found ways to connect with the students, to ignite that same insatiable curiosity in them that had driven me during my school years. Resilience became my guiding star, illuminating the path even when it was shrouded in darkness. Each moment of doubt or failure became a lesson, each obstacle a stepping stone. I learned to embrace setbacks, to see them not as impediments, but as integral parts of the journey. This mindset shift transformed the way I viewed challenges. They were no longer threats to my goals, but rather opportunities to deepen my knowledge and fortify my character. As I stood before my class that day, a group of young minds eager yet apprehensive, I shared with them the essence of what I had learned. Life's journey is replete with setbacks, each one a test of our mettle. But through resilience, we can navigate even the stormiest seas and emerge not only unscathed, but stronger and more passionate than ever. And just like that, amidst the symphony of pens scratching on paper, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The setbacks I'd faced weren't just personal battles. They were lessons I could pass on, beacons of hope for those still finding their way. In each challenge, there lies an opportunity to grow. In each setback, a chance to build resilience. And in education, a pathway to transform not just one's mind but one's very soul. With this realization, I felt ready to face whatever life had in store for me, with an unwavering belief that resilience would guide me through. Adaptability and learning. As I look back on the winding road of my personal and professional journey, one thread stands out vividly against the tapestry of experiences: adaptability. It's been my compass, guiding me through uncharted territories and unexpected storms. In a world that never stops evolving, an unyielding rigidity is a surefire path to obsolescence. Instead, it's the ability to pivot, to absorb new information, and to apply it. This, I have learned, is the true essence of staying ahead. In my early 20s, I took on my first corporate job. Fresh out of college, I was brimming with theories and academic knowledge. But it didn't take long for reality to hit. None of the textbooks had prepared me for the fluid dynamics of the workplace. One moment, I was immersed in data analytics. The next, I was expected to present those findings eloquently to a room full of executives. My first presentation was a fiasco. I stumbled over words and drowned in my own anxiety. But instead of retreating, I chose to adapt. I attended public speaking workshops, practiced relentlessly, and within months, I had transformed an area of weakness into one of my strongest assets. It was in these moments that I understood the power of adaptability. The concept was tested time and again. 4 years into my career, the company I worked for underwent a major restructuring. Entire departments were merged, roles were reassigned, and no one's job was safe. While my colleagues fretted over the uncertainty, I saw it as an opportunity. I volunteered for tasks outside my job description, learned new skills, and soon found myself leading a team in a newly consolidated department. The ability to adapt quickly to the shifting landscape not only secured my position, but also catapulted my career to new heights. But adaptability wasn't just about career advancement. When the pandemic hit, life as we knew it grounded to a halt. Remote work became the norm, and for someone who thrived on face-to-face interactions, it was initially disorienting. Yet, I adapted once more. I created a home office, set defined working hours, and delved into digital collaboration tools. To connect with my team, I got creative. Virtual coffee breaks, online team-building games, and regular check-ins became essential parts of our routine. This, too, was a lesson. Adaptability isn't just a professional skill, it's a way of life. One of the most profound realizations came from observing nature. Trees that bend with the wind tend to survive storms better than rigid structures. In many ways, we humans are no different. The more flexible we are, the more likely we are to withstand the unforeseen challenges that life throws our way. Adaptability, I came to understand, is not merely about survival, it's about thriving amidst change. Embracing adaptability also means embracing perpetual learning. The world is in a constant state of flux, and the knowledge I gained just a year ago might be rendered obsolete by new advancements. I recall the transition to digital marketing. Initially, it felt like navigating a labyrinth. The algorithms, analytics, and tools were entirely new to me. However, instead of shying away, I dove in headfirst. I enrolled in online courses, sought mentorship, and after months of relentless learning, I became proficient in a field that initially felt alien. This experience reinforced an invaluable lesson. The more adaptable we are, the more we open ourselves to learning, and consequently, the more adept we become. As I share these reflections, I am reminded of one particular evening that epitomized my journey. It was a rainy Thursday night, and I had just returned from a particularly grueling business trip. Exhausted, I collapsed onto my couch. Yet, my mind buzzed with anticipation. For the next morning, I had to address a critical meeting that could determine the future direction of my department. The themes of adaptability and continuous learning swirled in my thoughts like a mantra. Little did I know, that meeting would become a defining moment in my career, testing every ounce of adaptability I had cultivated over the years. The stakes were high, and the room would be filled with key decision-makers. As the clock ticked closer to the fateful hour, I could almost feel the weight of the moment pressing down, urging me to summon every lesson learned, every ounce of adaptability, to step into the arena with unwavering confidence. Reflection and iteration. Sometimes, the journey of learning feels like sailing through an uncharted ocean. Each wave crashing against your boat might seem like a setback, but if you pause and reflect, you'll notice the subtle signs guiding you. That's what happened to me. I was too focused on reaching my destination, often overlooking these gentle nudges from the universe. It was only after a few failed attempts that I realized the importance of reflection. Reflecting on my experiences brought newfound clarity. I could see patterns in my mistakes, areas where I repeatedly stumbled. It wasn't pleasant to confront my flaws, but it was necessary. I started keeping a journal, noting down what went wrong and why. To my surprise, this simple habit became an invaluable tool. It was like holding a magnifying glass to my own life, revealing details I had previously missed. But reflection alone wasn't enough. I needed to act on these insights. Iteration became my next step. Armed with the knowledge from my reflections, I began making tiny tweaks to my approach. The changes were small but deliberate. If I tripped over the same stone twice, I learned to step around it the third time. Slowly, I saw progress. Each iteration brought me closer to my goals, each failure a lesson rather than a loss. The process was iterative, recursive, almost like a dance where I constantly adjusted my footing to find the right rhythm. Yet, it was far from easy. There were days when I wanted to quit, convinced that improvement was a mirage. In those moments, I had to remind myself of the progress I had made, however incremental. Reflecting on past successes, no matter how small, provided the motivation to keep going. Iteration wasn't a flashy, overnight success story. It was a relentless grind, a commitment to continuous improvement. The more I embraced this mindset, the more I realized that the journey itself was transforming me. I began to share my experiences with others, hoping to inspire them to reflect and iterate in their own lives. The responses were varied. Some found it daunting, others liberating. But universally, the concept resonated. People started seeing their setbacks as opportunities for growth. They, too, adopted the habit of reflection and iteration, and I watched as they blossomed in their own right. It was a beautiful, collective evolution. As I stand on the cusp of my next venture, I carry these lessons with me. Reflection and iteration are no longer just tools, they are a way of life. They remind me that every failure is a stepping stone, every challenge a chance to improve. And in this constant cycle of learning and growing, I find purpose and progress. It's a journey that never truly ends, and that's where its beauty lies. Chapter 11. The Ethics of Knowledge Acquisition. Intellectual integrity. I remember those early days when my curiosity was as insatiable as a starving musician's hunger for melody. Back then, knowledge was a vast ocean, and I was determined to explore every inch of its boundless waters. But it didn't take long for me to understand that navigating this boundless sea required more than just curiosity. One needed a compass, and for me, that compass was intellectual integrity. To truly learn, one must be honest, not just in the conclusions drawn, but in the very process of learning itself. There is a kind of purity in approaching knowledge with untainted intent. You see, intellectual integrity isn't merely about avoiding plagiarism or citing sources correctly. It's about a deeper commitment to truth and to oneself. Every assumption must be questioned, every bias laid bare, and every convenient shortcut avoided. It's about resisting the temptation to cut corners, to take the easy way out, even when no one else is watching. It wasn't always easy. I faced moments where the line between right and convenient blurred, and it took all my resolve to stay true to my principles. There was, for instance, the time I was working on a research project, and a particular piece of data seemed to fit perfectly into my hypothesis. It was tempting to shape my analysis around this convenient snippet, but something inside me, perhaps it was a lingering echo of a mentor's advice or a nascent sense of ethical responsibility, stopped me. I double-checked the data, scrutinized it from every angle, and eventually realized that it was an outlier, not a corroboration. Rejecting it set my work back by weeks, but I emerged with a sense of real accomplishment. There was another episode when I shared my findings with colleagues. The excitement of a potential breakthrough was palpable, and the validation I received was intoxicating. Yet, I noticed a flaw, a tiny inconsistency others had missed. Admitting it meant deflating my moment of triumph, but I knew that genuine progress depended on unflinching honesty. So, I laid bare my doubts, and the constructive debate that ensued led to a more robust understanding. These principles have served me well beyond the realm of academia. They have become a lens through which I view the world, a standard I hold myself to in every endeavor. Whether in personal relationships, where honesty and transparency are pivotal, or in professional settings, where ethical practices build lasting trust, intellectual integrity remains my guiding star. There are moments, though, when upholding these ideals is tested in ways one cannot foresee. In the grand narrative of one's pursuit of knowledge, there are episodes that stretch the very fabric of your commitment to truth. It is in these moments, when the stakes are highest and the pressure's toughest, that one's true character surfaces. As I found myself at such a crossroads, I could feel the weight of my choices bearing down on me, understanding that the path ahead would define not just my scholarly journey, but who I am at my core. Avoiding plagiarism. When I first stepped into the labyrinthine world of academia, little did I know the weight of originality. I remember my first major paper with an almost tactile clarity. The silent hum of the library, the scent of old books mingling with the faint aroma of coffee, and the thrill of diving into uncharted intellectual territories. Why does originality matter? The answer became clear soon enough. It imbues our work with authenticity and respect, not just from our peers, but from ourselves. One strategy one learned in this journey is the value of proper citation. Every source, every thought borrowed from another mind needed to be acknowledged. Simple, yet profound. Think of citation as a conversation. We aren't just borrowing ideas, we're engaging with them, creating a dialogue between past and present thoughts. The subtle footnotes, the detailed bibliography, they are not mere academic decorum. They are the bridges to every mind that has wandered that path before us. But how to keep it from feeling like a tedious chore? I transformed the process into a ritual of respect. Recognizing each creator for their contribution became my way of saying, "Thank you, I hear you." It changed everything. Another revelation was understanding paraphrasing, which isn't merely rewording, it's rethinking. It pushed me to internalize and reinterpret the essence of the original text in my unique voice. Paraphrasing wasn't avoidance of direct quotes, it was a manifestation of genuine comprehension. I found tools and techniques to bolster this skill, synonyms, sentence restructuring, yet above all, ensuring it sounded like me. You see, paraphrasing stands on the thin line between understanding and mere duplication. Mastering it meant embracing the former with unyielding honesty. One more pivotal habit was maintaining diligent notes. Early on, I developed a method, color-coded highlights for direct quotes, summaries, and my reflections. This disciplined note-taking prevented the common pitfall of accidental plagiarism. It kept my ideas distinctly separated from the rest, providing a clearer view of my original thoughts against the vast sea of referenced wisdom. Looking over my notes, I felt confident I wasn't just tracing someone else's footprints, but leaving my own on the sands of knowledge. Lastly, the importance of originality isn't always heavily romantic or philosophical. Sometimes, it's commonplace trepidation. Fear of repercussions, the heavy hand of academic penalties, they loom large and serve as necessary checks. Yet, it's far more about the silent, internal harmony. The integrity of knowing that what I crafted was truly mine, that I had given birth to something genuine, however imperfect. This became my quiet crusade, honoring the tenets of academic integrity, safeguarding the sanctity of my intellectual journey. Each step forward in avoiding plagiarism wasn't just a petty academic requirement. It was a moral choice, an act of respect to every thinker who came before me and a sacred promise to myself. The avenues of originality are endless and rich, waiting to be explored. The key is not just to follow but to interpret, not just to echo but to create a symphony of one's own. As I wade through the ebb and flow of thoughts, I find that the commitment to authenticity isn't just about integrity. It's about discovering the unexplored recesses of our potential.
Respecting diverse perspectives.
There was a time when I thought I had all the answers. My world was neatly organized into black and white, right and wrong, my way or no way. However, life has an uncanny habit of throwing curveballs at you just when you've comfortably settled into your beliefs. It started with a simple relocation. Moving to a bustling city from the quiet suburbs was like diving into an entirely different universe. The streets brimmed with people who had come from all corners of the globe, each carrying a piece of their culture, beliefs, and stories. I found myself surrounded by a mosaic of perspectives that I hadn't even imagined existed. Initially, it was overwhelming, almost as if I had been transported to a different planet. At work, my assumptions were soon challenged. A project required collaboration with a colleague from India named Ariv. His approach to problem-solving was so different from mine that it left me puzzled and, admittedly, resistant. I remember one particular meeting where we were stuck on the best way to handle a client's request. Ariv's suggestions seemed far-fetched to me. But instead of dismissing them outright, I decided to listen, truly listen. That moment of open-mindedness became a turning point. Listening to Ariv's reasoning, I realized that his unique perspective provided insights I hadn't considered. He had lived a life so different from mine, shaped by experiences that offered him a distinctive lens through which to view our challenge. Collaborating with him didn't just solve the project issue, it enriched my understanding of problem-solving altogether. The more I engaged with people from various backgrounds, the more my outlook broadened. Whether it was a conversation with my neighbor from Kenya or a debate with a friend from Brazil, each interaction added new shades to my previously monochrome worldview. I came to see the value in perspectives that diverged drastically from my own. It was like discovering unknown facets of the same diamond, each angle revealing a different sparkle. This journey taught me that embracing varied viewpoints isn't just about tolerance, it's about actively seeking them out and valuing them. In an increasingly interconnected world, our greatest strengths could lie in our diversity. And yet, just when I thought I'd grasped the entirety of this lesson, life threw yet another twist, testing my newfound respect for diverse perspectives in a way I never anticipated. Chapter 12. Fostering a learning-friendly environment. Promoting learning in communities. As I walked through the community center's newly renovated halls, I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. My journey to foster a culture of learning within this community had been long and arduous, but moments like these made every effort worthwhile. I observed neighbors chatting animatedly about the upcoming history seminar and teenagers collaborating on their science fair projects. The air was charged with curiosity and enthusiasm. It all began with a simple idea. What if we could reignite our community's passion for learning? In a world where distractions are plentiful, creating a space where knowledge and curiosity could thrive seemed almost revolutionary. I started by organizing weekly book clubs, inviting authors to discuss their work. Slowly, book club members began sharing their insights and recommendations, creating a web of knowledge that extended beyond our small gatherings. Next came the workshops and seminars. I reached out to educators, artists, scientists, and entrepreneurs, envisioning a tapestry of diverse wisdom. We offered sessions on everything from financial literacy to painting techniques, cybersecurity to sustainable gardening. The goal was to offer learning opportunities that appealed to various interests and age groups. I remember the excitement that buzzed through the room during our first creative writing workshop. It was as if a spark had been lit. The more we engaged in these collective learning experiences, the more I could see the transformative power of knowledge. Parents shared how their children's reading skills improved, adults discovered new hobbies, and seniors found renewed purpose. We were not just learning facts and skills. We were building connections, fostering resilience, and creating a shared sense of achievement. The community blossomed, breaking down barriers that had once seemed insurmountable. Of course, not everything was easy. There were moments of doubt, times when attendance waned, and resources felt stretched thin. But we adapted and persevered. We established a mentoring program, pairing experienced members with newcomers, fostering relationships that became the backbone of our initiative. We also set up a community library, where anyone could donate or borrow books, ensuring that learning remained accessible even when formal sessions weren't in progress. The benefits were manifold, spilling beyond the immediate confines of our learning spaces. Crime rates in our community dropped, with young individuals finding purpose and direction. Local businesses started thriving as people applied new skills and knowledge in their ventures. Healthcare professionals noted a reduction in mental health issues, attributing part of this change to the increased social interactions and mental stimulation our learning culture provided. One unforgettable evening encapsulated our journey's essence. We had organized a knowledge night, a celebratory event where members showcased what they had learned or created. The atmosphere was electric, resonating with pride and accomplishment. I watched as a 7-year-old confidently recited a poem she had written, an elderly gentleman demonstrated a software program he developed, and a single mother shared her experience of balancing work, study, and raising her children. As the night drew to a close, I felt a profound sense of gratitude and anticipation. We had come a long way, yet there was still so much potential for growth. I wondered about the next steps, new horizons to explore. And as the enthusiasm of the crowd enveloped me, I knew one thing for certain: the culture of learning we had cultivated was not just a fleeting trend. It had become an intrinsic part of our community's identity, and the best was yet to come. Cultivating a culture of inquiry. When I first walked into the snug little coffee shop where I now spend most of my afternoons, I noticed something unusual. It wasn't the eclectic mix of furniture or the tantalizing smell of freshly ground coffee beans. It was the conversations. There was a vibe, an atmosphere imbued with curiosity. Everywhere I turned, people were asking questions. Not just mundane questions, but questions that peeled away layers, that went beyond the superficial. It reminded me of my early days as a researcher. The first time I set foot in a laboratory, my mind brimmed with questions. Initially, I felt a bit embarrassed, almost as if my curiosity was a sign of my ignorance. But I quickly learned that those who delved into queries without reservation were the ones who made groundbreaking discoveries. The environment there was made for questions. Instead of dismissing questions as naive, we celebrated them. Each query became a stepping stone to deeper understanding. This spirit of inquiry is what I aim to cultivate in my day-to-day life, and it starts with nurturing a questioning mindset in my environment. It's astonishing how simply shifting one's approach to engagement can foster such an inquiring atmosphere. Instead of giving direct answers to questions posed by friends or colleagues, I toss the question back to them, encouraging them to explore the answers themselves. I watch their eyes light up as they realize the power of their own curiosity, that spark of discovery that makes them think, what if? One evening, a group of us were huddled around a table at the coffee shop, engulfed in a conversation about renewable energy. As the debate heated up, one friend, usually quiet, posed a simple yet profound question: why don't we use more solar power if it's so effective? This question, seemingly obvious, opened a floodgate. It led us down a rabbit hole of discussion about energy policies, technological limitations, and the economic landscape. That one question turned our evening into a brainstorming session that left each of us with pages of notes and ideas to ponder. Creating this culture of inquiry has profound implications beyond mere intellectual stimulation. It fosters innovation. When people feel comfortable asking questions without the fear of being judged or dismissed, they are more likely to propose novel ideas and solutions. This environment becomes a breeding ground for innovation and creativity, where every question potentially holds the seed of the next big breakthrough. But it's not always easy. It requires a shift in mindset, from providing answers to facilitating discovery. It means encouraging questions, even the uncomfortable ones, and being humble enough to admit when we don't know the answers. This shift can start with something as simple as changing our responses to questions. Instead of seeing questions as interruptions, we can see them as opportunities for exploration. The journey to cultivating this culture of inquiry in your environment is ongoing, always evolving. But I promise you this: the rewards are monumental. When we embrace a questioning mindset, we unlock doors to deeper understanding and innovation. So, here's my challenge to you: the next time someone asks you a question, don't just give them an answer. Give them the empowerment to seek it themselves. Watch as doors of opportunity and discovery swing open, inviting them, and you, into realms unexplored. Championing lifelong education. Growing up, my world was confined to the boundaries of what I knew: school, homework, and occasionally a library book that hinted at a world beyond the classroom's four walls. It wasn't until later in life that the true expanse of learning revealed itself to me. I remember the exact moment it happened. Sitting in a small room, hunched over my computer, when I stumbled upon an online course that completely changed my perspective on education. Lifelong learning, they called it. A simple term that held the potential to unlock endless possibilities. My journey as a champion of lifelong learning began that day. I enrolled in that course, and it unexpectedly fueled a hunger for knowledge I hadn't realized existed within me. Before I knew it, I was devouring course after course: history, sciences, arts, and even those tricky subjects like economics that had once seemed impenetrable. I transformed from a passive recipient of knowledge to an active seeker, keen to dive into the sea of information that was now at my fingertips. However, my epiphany wasn't content to reside solely within me. The passion for lifelong learning was infectious, and I wanted to spread it. I began sharing my experiences with friends and family, urging them to explore beyond their immediate realms. Some were skeptical. Why would they need to learn anything new when they had settled comfortably into their chosen paths? It was here that I faced my first real challenge as an advocate. The skepticism was a wall, but I knew it could be scaled. Every conversation, every shared resource, was a foothold. One of the most gratifying moments came when a close friend, initially resistant, started an online literature course. I watched as their interest blossomed, mirroring my own journey from uncertainty to enthusiasm. This small victory was a beacon, a testament to the ripple effect one passionate advocate could have. As time passed, the grassroots movement I had begun to foster grew. I began organizing community learning events, where people could come together to share their newfound knowledge or simply absorb what others had to offer. These gatherings were electric, filled with the hum of eager minds. The diversity of subjects covered was astounding, knitting techniques sat alongside quantum physics discussions, baking lessons next to coding workshops. Everyone had something to teach, and everyone had something to learn. The culmination of my efforts came when I was invited to speak at a regional conference on education. Standing on the stage, looking out at the audience filled with potential lifelong learners, I could feel the palpable excitement. My heart raced as I shared my journey, emphasizing the importance and the joy of continuous education. The room buzzed with energy, underscoring the fact that the message had resonated deeply. But the true breakthrough was still to come. After my talk, a young student approached me. Her eyes sparkled with the same curiosity and determination I had found within myself. She thanked me for igniting a passion she never knew existed inside her. In that moment, I realized that lifelong education wasn't just a personal journey. It was a movement, one person at a time, redefined by the boundless potential of the human intellect. Often I think about that day, not as a culmination, but as the beginning of another chapter. Each interaction, each story, each inspired individual is a thread in the larger tapestry of lifelong education. The journey is endless and ever-evolving, and as long as there are minds willing to soar beyond their confines, the championing of lifelong learning will persist. And I, with unyielding enthusiasm, will continue to be its advocate. Chapter 13: The Future of Education. Innovations in Learning Technology. There's a unique kind of thrill in holding a newly released gadget or tapping into the potential of a cutting-edge application. For me, this excitement reached a different peak when I began exploring the realm of education technology. From smart boards to AI tutors, the influx of innovation into our learning spaces is nothing short of revolutionary. I recall the first time I used a virtual reality headset in an educational setting. To say it was transformative feels like an understatement. I found myself walking through ancient ruins, almost feeling the rough texture of stones and catching my breath at the sight of vast historical landscapes. The boundaries between textbook images and tangible experiences blurred in an instant. It wasn't just about seeing history, it was about living it. What stuck with me the most was how these technologies made learning more inclusive. Imagine a child with physical disabilities experiencing a science experiment through a virtual lab, or an aspiring artist practicing intricate techniques guided by an AI mentor. These innovations dismantled barriers, ensuring that no learner was left behind due to their circumstances. One particular development that caught my fascination is adaptive learning software. The first time I interacted with one, it felt as if the program knew me better than I knew myself. It pinpointed my strengths, identified my weaknesses, and curated content that matched my pace. This personalized approach turned what could be a mundane learning journey into a highly engaging voyage. Every quiz, every lesson felt tailor-made, as if a private tutor was with me around the clock. However, the plethora of these advancements isn't without its challenges. For every success story of a student thriving under a digital learning regime, there exists a tale of a teacher struggling to adapt or a learner overwhelmed by too much information. Balancing the integration of technology while maintaining human touch, empathy, and genuine connection remains a tightrope walk. As I reflect on these experiences, I am acutely aware that we are standing on the precipice of what learning could become. The potential is immense, yet it comes with the weight of responsibility. The onus is on us, educators, developers, and learners, to shape this future thoughtfully. How we choose to embrace and direct these innovations will define not just education, but the very society we aspire to build. Adapting to changing workforce needs. The first time I realized how crucial it is to adapt my learning to meet the workforce's ever-evolving demands, I was standing in a room full of polished, confident professionals. It was one of those networking events where everyone seemed to have their career trajectory perfectly mapped out. I felt a pang of insecurity creeping in, a whisper that questioned my preparedness for the future. It was in that moment, amidst the clinking of cocktail glasses and the murmur of strategic conversations, that I made a vow to myself: I would stay ahead of the curve. Every industry had trends that governed its heartbeat. Technology was particularly unforgiving, relentless in its pace. The software I became proficient in last year could be obsolete next year. So, I began a ritual of sorts. Every morning, with my cup of strong black coffee, I would delve into the latest articles, reports, and expert analyses on industry trends. It wasn't just a task, it became a fascination. Understanding where my field was headed guided my learning choices like a well-calibrated compass. I remembered vividly the time when cloud computing was on the brink of becoming mainstream. Skepticism was rampant, yet I sensed the shift. The excitement was palpable in those who understood its potential, while others dismissed it as a passing frenzy. I chose not to be part of the latter group. I signed up for a comprehensive course, juggling late-night study sessions with an already packed work schedule. It was exhausting, but rewarding beyond measure. As my peers struggled to understand the intricacies of this new technology, I found myself ahead, guiding projects and making informed decisions. That was the power of adapting my learning to these shifting tides. Another pivotal moment came when data analytics started taking center stage. Traditionally, my role didn't require deep dive into data. However, I noticed the subtle transition. Companies began to invest heavily in capturing and interpreting data to drive their strategies. I couldn't remain stagnant. Instead of resisting the tide, I embraced it. Enrolling in data science workshops and dedicating weekends to understanding complex datasets became my new reality. Initially, it felt like learning a new language, filled with alien terminologies and intricate methodologies. Gradually, it clicked. My ability to convert data into actionable insights became one of my most valuable skills. In a candid conversation with a mentor, they once told me, "Change is the only constant in your career. How you adapt to it defines your success." That piece of advice stuck with me. Hence, I made it a practice to attend webinars, participate in industry forums, and collaborate with thought leaders. These platforms offered glimpses into the future, allowing me to anticipate transformations rather than be blindsided by them. This journey of continuous learning wasn't without its challenges. There were times when the sheer volume of new information felt overwhelming. Balancing work, education, and personal life tested my limits. But every struggle was a testament to my commitment to growth. I discovered the joy of learning, not just for survival, but for excelling in a dynamic world. It became a habit, a ritual that fueled my ambition. As I stand on the cusp of yet another industry revolution, possibly driven by artificial intelligence and machine learning, I feel a familiar thrill. The world is changing, as it always does. And here I am, ready to adapt, learn, and thrive. The path ahead is uncertain, filled with possibilities I can't yet fathom. But one thing is clear: staying informed and evolving with the trends will always be my guiding principle. The journey continues, with curiosity as my constant companion and adaptability as my trusted ally. Global education trends. I've always had a thirst for knowledge, but it wasn't until I started paying attention to global education trends that I truly understood the vastness of how learning can shape lives. It's remarkable to see how different cultures approach education and the innovative techniques they adopt. From the widespread use of technology in classrooms in Finland to the emphasis on holistic development in Singapore, each trend has offered me a different lens through which to view my own educational journey. One striking example is the increasing integration of artificial intelligence in modern classrooms. In South Korea, for instance, AI isn't just a tool, it's practically a teaching assistant. Students interact with smart devices that can adapt to their learning pace and style, providing instant feedback and personalized curriculums. Observing this, I realized the potential of technology beyond just being a source of information. It refocused my attention on the ways I could incorporate tech into my learning habits, making my study sessions more efficient and tailored to my needs. Moreover, understanding global education trends has broadened my perspective in more profound ways. Reflecting on the educational philosophies of places like Finland, where the focus is less on rote learning and more on critical thinking and problem-solving, I began to see the gaps in my own learning process. I started shifting away from memorization tactics to techniques that fostered a deeper understanding of the material. This small yet significant change transformed my academic experience, making learning more enjoyable and meaningful. But it's not just the methodologies that have impacted me, it's the awareness of educational equity that comes with it. Trends like the push for inclusive education highlight the importance of providing equal learning opportunities for all students, regardless of their backgrounds or abilities. Witnessing efforts in countries like Canada, where they implement inclusive policies to ensure students with disabilities receive the same quality of education, I learned the value of empathy and the significance of advocating for an equitable learning environment. As I immerse myself deeper into these trends, I can't help but feel a sense of responsibility. There's a world of knowledge out there, shaped by diverse experiences and perspectives, waiting to be explored and understood. Staying informed about these trends isn't just about keeping up with the latest educational buzzwords, it's about appreciating and incorporating the richness of global insights into my daily learning. Every new piece of information propels me forward, making me not just a better learner, but a more conscious and empathetic individual. And so, in this ever-evolving landscape of education, I'm not just a passive participant. By understanding and embracing these trends, I become an active contributor to my own educational journey, continuously reshaping and redefining how I learn, think, and grow. Chapter 14: Nurturing Lifelong Curiosity. Encouraging inquisitiveness in children. There's something magical about a child's curiosity. I remember my son, Peter, when he was just 5 years old, asking me why the sky changed colors in the evening. We were sitting in the backyard, and the sun was descending behind the hills, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. I didn't have a scientific answer on the tip of my tongue, but I saw his eyes filled with wonder, and knew this was a moment to foster his inquisitive spirit. Of course, satisfying a child's curiosity isn't always about having immediate answers. It's often about encouraging them to explore and discover the answers themselves. That evening, instead of simplifying the sunset into a quick explanation, I asked, "What do you think happens to the sun at night?" His face lit up, and he spun a fantastic story about the sun taking a dip in the ocean to cool off. This imaginative response was my first lesson in understanding that it's the journey of inquiry, not the destination, that nourishes a child's curiosity. Drawing from these experiences, I've developed several strategies to nurture children's natural curiosity. First and foremost, I believe in the power of open-ended questions. When a child asks something, sometimes the best response is another question that prompts them to think deeper. This method doesn't just give them an answer, it opens up a world of possibility and critical thinking. For instance, when Peter later asked how birds fly, rather than diving into the biology of it, I responded with, "What if we could invent a machine that lets us fly like birds?" This led to an evening of drawing and designing all sorts of fantastical flying machines. Another key approach is creating an environment where it's safe to ask questions, even silly ones. I have always encouraged Peter and his friends to voice any question or idea, no matter how outlandish it might seem. This built up courage and a sense that the world is theirs to inquire about. Once, during a family cooking session, Peter questioned why we couldn't mix ketchup with ice cream. Instead of dismissing it, we discussed the chemistry of flavors and even tried a tiny experiment. It ended in giggles and a shared understanding that not all ideas work, but they're worth exploring. However, the most transformative tool I've found is modeling curiosity myself. Children emulate the adults in their lives, and when they see grown-ups inquisitively engaged with the world, they mimic these behaviors. I remember reading a book on physics, and Peter curiously peeked over my shoulder. Instead of shooing him away, I explained the fascinating concept of black holes in simplified terms. His eyes widened with amazement, and it sparked a series of questions about the universe we wouldn't have had otherwise. Nurturing curiosity isn't only about knowledge. It's about shaping a way of thinking that values questions over answers and exploration over certainty. Cultivating this inquisitiveness prepares children not just for academic success, but for a life filled with wonder and creativity. And as Peter grows older, I see that spark of curiosity turning into a flame that will light his path, wherever it may lead him. Sustaining adult curiosity. I've always been fascinated by the world around me. As a child, my curiosity was boundless, spilling over into every aspect of my life. But as I grew older, I noticed a troubling trend. Responsibilities, work, and the mundane routines of adulthood began to stifle that once vibrant curiosity. It didn't have to be this way. I was determined to keep the flame alive. One method that has consistently helped me is setting aside time for exploration. I allocate a specific period each week to dive into something entirely new, be it a scientific anomaly, an obscure historical event, or a novel concept in philosophy. This ritual not only rekindles my inquisitive spirit, but enriches my understanding of the world. In these moments, I remember that learning doesn't have to be utilitarian. It can be joyful, purely for its own sake. Another approach that proved effective is engaging with diverse perspectives. Discussions with people from various walks of life unveil layers of complexity in even the most familiar topics. Whether through book clubs, online forums, or casual conversations, hearing different viewpoints is like revealing hidden facets of a gem. It's a reminder that curiosity thrives in an environment of diverse thought. Additionally, I've found that nurturing a sense of wonder isn't always about grand discoveries or deep intellectual pursuits. Sometimes, it's found in the simplicity of daily life. Observing the changing seasons, experimenting with a new recipe, or even exploring a new hobby can be profound. These small acts keep life fresh and exciting, proving that curiosity is an attitude, not just an action. There's a secret, though, that I stumbled upon which ties all these methods together: the power of asking questions. Simple, open-ended questions have the potential to transform mundane experiences into extraordinary ones. Why does the sky change color at dusk? What historical reasons shaped our current societal norms? These inquiries often lead to deeper exploration and unexpected revelations. Recently, I've been captivated by the idea of beginner's mind, a concept borrowed from Zen Buddhism. Approaching life with a fresh perspective, as a novice would, opens up possibilities that a jaded mind might dismiss. It's almost magical how adopting a beginner's mind can make the familiar strange and the old new again. Suddenly, the world is brimming with potential, waiting to be discovered. The beauty of sustaining curiosity into adulthood is that it doesn't demand grand gestures or extraordinary talents. It's about nurturing a mindset that remains open, playful, and ever so inquisitive. And as I've come to realize, this mindset can be cultivated, regardless of life's many responsibilities. The key is to be intentional, in setting aside time, seeking diverse perspectives, and most importantly, never stopping to question. With these practices, the flame of curiosity can indeed burn brightly, illuminating the path ahead. As I continue this journey of maintaining curiosity, one thing remains clear. It's a lifelong endeavor, but one that promises endless rewards. And perhaps, just perhaps, the pursuit of knowledge and understanding is not only a path to a richer life, but also a means of staying forever young at heart. Curiosity as a driver of innovation. As I walked into my cluttered workshop one morning, the scent of sawdust mingling with the crisp air, a spark of curiosity danced through my mind. What if? That simple two-word question has been my constant companion, leading me down paths both familiar and unknown. Curiosity, I've found, is not a mere accessory to human experience. It's the cornerstone of ingenuity. I remember the first time it struck me how powerful curiosity could be. I was a child, no older than 10. My parents had given me a simple electronics kit for my birthday. To them, it was an engaging toy to keep me out of trouble. To me, it was a Pandora's box. I spent hours tinkering with wires and circuits, each connection and spark lighting up not just the bulbs, but my imagination. I wanted to understand how and why everything worked the way it did, and I quickly realized that curiosity was my best tool, something that could unlock endless possibilities. Fast forward to a few years ago, I found myself staring at a problem that seemed insurmountable. My team and I had been working on a project to develop a more efficient renewable energy source, but we were at an impasse. Stagnation was setting in, and the initial enthusiasm was being replaced by frustration. It was in these moments of doubt that my curiosity gnawed at me, urging me not to accept limitations. As I stared at the blueprint, my mind wandered, and I started to question everything we'd done. What if we approached the problem from a completely different angle? I began to think about biomimicry, emulating natural processes to solve human problems. Nature, after all, has had billions of years to refine its methods. I immersed myself in research, studying the way plants harness sunlight, and how birds glide effortlessly through the sky. My curiosity about these natural phenomena led me to propose a radical redesign of our model. By integrating principles borrowed from the natural world, we were able to make a breakthrough that seemed almost magical. The energy output increased by 40%, a figure that not only exceeded our goals, but also revitalized the entire team's spirit. Even in my personal life, curiosity has shaped my experiences and relationships. I once met a traveler at a cafe, someone whose language I didn't speak. Conventional wisdom might have left us as mere passerbys, but my curiosity compelled me to bridge the gap. Using hand gestures, drawings, and a shared smile, we communicated, sharing stories and wisdom that transcended words. It made me realize that curiosity is not just about solving problems. It is about connecting with the world around us, fostering empathy and understanding. Curiosity is the beating heart of innovation. It challenges the status quo, pushes boundaries, and transforms what-ifs into why-nots. Yet, it requires more than just the instinct to question. It demands perseverance, a willingness to embrace failure as a stepping stone, and an openness to see the world through different lenses. Each question, each pondered hypothesis, eats away at the walls of impossibility, brick by curious brick. And, as I've discovered, the most remarkable journeys often begin with the simplest of inquiries. So here I stand, with yet another nascent idea burgeoning in my mind, a neuromuscular interface that promises to revolutionize prosthetics. The details are still blurry, the path uncertain, but one thing is crystal clear: curiosity will be my guiding star. With it, the potential for innovation is boundless, and the thrill of discovery, endless. Chapter 15. The Endless Journey of Learning. Virtues of Intellectual Humility. As I step into the vast chambers of human knowledge, I am invariably struck by how little I truly know. Every book I delve into, every conversation I have, and every new experience serves as a stark reminder of my own limitations. This constant influx of awareness isn't demoralizing, but rather invigorating. It's the fuel that propels my unending quest for growth. There is a certain beauty in acknowledging one's ignorance, because it opens the door to boundless opportunities for learning. I recall vividly a debate I had in my early 20s with a friend who was immensely knowledgeable in philosophy. Armed with snippets of information I had picked up from various sources, I mistakenly believed I could hold my ground. But the more questions my friend asked, the more apparent it became that I was out of my depth. My initial embarrassment quickly transformed into a deep respect for the power of admitting one's own knowledge gaps. That eye-opening encounter taught me the importance of intellectual humility. Since then, my attitude toward learning has dramatically shifted. I no longer shy away from saying, "I don't know." In fact, those 3 words have become a cornerstone of my interactions. When I admit ignorance, I not only free myself from the pretense of omniscience, but also attract a wealth of knowledge from others who are eager to share their expertise. This has led to richer conversations and more meaningful connections. By embracing intellectual humility, I have cultivated an open and continuous learning environment around me. One of the most profound benefits of this mindset is the mental flexibility it fosters. When I'm open to new ideas and willing to challenge my own beliefs, I'm able to adapt more readily to changes and innovations. This adaptability can be a game changer, especially in a world that moves at a breakneck pace. I've seen colleagues who were resistant to new perspectives struggle to keep up, their rigid thinking acting as an anchor dragging them down. In contrast, those who, like me, cultivate a habit of intellectual humility, often find themselves ahead of the curve. But intellectual humility is not just about individual growth. It influences how we collaborate and work together. In group settings, it paves the way for more inclusive and effective problem-solving. When we shed the veneer of infallibility, we create a safer space for others to share their insights and ideas. This collective pooling of knowledge leads to more innovative and robust solutions. I've witnessed projects succeed beyond our wildest expectations, simply because the team members were humble enough to acknowledge what they didn't know and sought out the expertise of others. As I pen these thoughts, I'm reminded of the countless times I've had to face my own intellectual shortcomings. Each instance has been a stepping stone in my journey of personal growth. This is not to say that the path is always smooth or comfortable. Admitting our limitations can be a blow to the ego, but it is this very discomfort that spurs us on to greater heights. The alternative, a stubborn clinging to the illusion of knowledge, is a dead-end road. In every chapter of my life, intellectual humility has served as a guiding star, leading me toward deeper understanding and more profound insights. It is a virtue that transcends academic learning and becomes a way of life. As I continue to navigate the ever-expanding ocean of human knowledge, I do so with the humble realization that there will always be more to discover. And that, I believe, is what makes the journey truly rewarding. Invigorating the mind with learning. From the moment we step into the world, we're naturally inclined to explore, absorb, and understand. This inherent curiosity doesn't dissipate with age, But for many, the responsibilities and routines of adult life can sometimes stifle that youthful enthusiasm for discovery. For me, continuous learning has always been a lifeline, a revitalizing force that keeps my mind vivid and keen. I recall the first time I felt truly invigorated by the act of learning as an adult. It wasn't in the confines of a formal education system, but rather in a small, dimly lit library tucked away in my neighborhood. The books, ranging from ancient philosophies to the newest scientific discoveries, were a treasure trove waiting to be unraveled. It was there I realized knowledge was not just a means to an end, but an end in itself. Delving into unfamiliar subjects was akin to exploring new terrains. I started with topics that piqued my interest: neuroscience, the mysteries of the universe, the intricacies of human behavior. Each new piece of information was a thread, intricately weaving into the tapestry of my understanding. It was transformative, reshaping how I viewed the world and my place in it. There's an undeniable thrill that accompanies the aha moments, those instances when the puzzle pieces of knowledge fit together perfectly. With every book I read, every course I took, and every documentary I watched, I felt my cognitive faculties sharpening. My memory improved, my problem-solving skills enhanced, and I found myself more adept at making connections between disparate pieces of information. Learning doesn't always come from academic pursuits. Sometimes it's the wisdom gleaned from the stories of those around us, the lessons taught by life experiences, or the silent understanding that grows from introspection. Engaging with new ideas and perspectives continually challenged my preconceived notions, fostering a mindset of openness and adaptability. But learning is not without its challenges. There were moments of frustration, especially when concepts didn't come easily or when I faced topics that were far outside my comfort zone. Yet, therein lay the beauty of it. Every challenge was an opportunity to stretch beyond my perceived limits, to bolster my resilience and fortitude. What I found most extraordinary was the collaborative nature of learning. Study groups, online forums, even casual conversations with friends, all served as fertile grounds for exchanging ideas and deepening my understanding. This shared journey of discovery fostered a sense of community, reminding me that learning, though deeply personal, is also a collective endeavor. As I stand now, reflecting on the ceaseless pursuit of knowledge, I understand that learning is more than a mere accumulation of facts. It's a dynamic, lifelong journey that constantly reignites the spark of curiosity, keeping our minds agile and our spirits vibrant. It's a reminder that no matter our age or stage in life, the world remains a boundless classroom, brimming with lessons waiting to be learned. Legacy of lifelong learners. As I sit here, reflecting on the lives of some remarkable individuals, I am struck by one common thread that binds them all together: their relentless pursuit of knowledge. These figures, revered across generations, didn't just dip their toes into the waters of education. They dived headfirst, never letting complacency or societal expectations constrain their thirst for learning. And it is through their stories that I find profound inspiration, driving my own journey of lifelong learning. Consider the remarkable story of Leonardo da Vinci, the quintessential Renaissance man. His curiosity knew no bounds. Painter, scientist, engineer, anatomist, Da Vinci excelled in diverse fields not merely through inherent talent, but through deliberate and consistent learning. His notebooks, brimming with sketches and observations, are a testament to his insatiable curiosity. Each page, a blend of art and science, reveals his unyielding quest to understand the world, to question the status quo, and to create connections others failed to perceive. Then there is the inspirational life of Marie Curie. A name synonymous with pioneering and perseverance, Curie broke barriers not only by being the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, but by winning it twice in different scientific fields, physics and chemistry. Her journey wasn't smooth. It was fraught with hardships, gender bias, and health risks. Yet, her profound dedication to learning and discovery enabled her to unlock the mysteries of radioactivity, effectively rewriting the medical and scientific landscapes. Her work ethic, tireless night shifts in her makeshift lab, speaks volumes about the impact of committed, ongoing learning. In more recent times, the name Nelson Mandela stands out. Beyond his political activism and his role in ending apartheid, Mandela was a voracious learner. Even during his 27 years of imprisonment, he made his cell a university, reading extensively and studying law. His unwavering belief in the power of education, to not only emancipate oneself but to transform societies, resonates deeply. Mandela's commitment underscores that learning isn't confined to formal settings. It's a mindset, a lifelong endeavor that transcends circumstances. Reflecting on these towering figures, I can't help but recognize the enduring power of lifelong learning. Their legacies illuminate the path for us all, reminding us that education isn't a destination but a journey. And it's a journey worth embarking on, filled with endless possibilities, personal growth, and the potential to make an indelible mark on the world. I find myself pondering late into the night, my mind sparked by the notion that we all hold the capacity to be lifelong learners. Each day, each experience, offers a lesson, a chance to grow, to evolve. And as I curl up with a good book or delve into a new subject, I feel a kindred connection to Da Vinci, Curie, and Mandela. It's a reminder that the truest legacy of learning lies not in accolades or recognition, but in the ceaseless pursuit and love of knowledge itself. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey through the infinite learner, embracing lifelong education, brought to you by Mindful Literary. We hope this audiobook has sparked your curiosity, inspired your growth, and provided you with the tools to embrace lifelong learning. As we conclude, remember that the journey of learning is never truly over. Each day presents new opportunities to expand your knowledge, challenge your assumptions, and grow both personally and professionally. By maintaining a growth mindset, cultivating curiosity, and continuously seeking new experiences, you can unlock limitless potential and achieve a fulfilling, enriched life. We encourage you to revisit the concepts and strategies shared in this audiobook, implement them in your daily life, and share your newfound wisdom with others. Inspire those around you to embark on their own learning journeys, creating a ripple effect of knowledge and growth within your community. Stay curious, remain open to new possibilities, and never stop learning. The world is full of wonders waiting to be discovered, and your journey as an infinite learner is just beginning. Thank you for choosing the infinite learner, embracing lifelong education. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep growing. This is Mindful Literary, wishing you all the best on your endless quest for knowledge.